Greetings, Sifters. It's GameFace episode 44 here on Sifted.net. Hope you guys are having a great week. We definitely have an awesome show this week. Lots of big games coming out over the last couple days. Yeah, I have a feeling it's probably going to stay pretty rocking right up until E3. E3's getting close, by the way.
Yeah, but 2 months?
Yeah, I'm already starting to think about the planning for E3, for Sifted. Just getting started on it yet, so I don't really want to share a whole lot of what we're doing, but just starting to put the plans together and things like that. Definitely want to get Pactor involved somehow with our E3 stuff. At the very least, we'll do an interview with him or something, like right after the press conferences, to get his take on stuff. We'll also be doing like an E3 predictions episode with Pac leading up to the show, so he's excited about it. I already got the invitation for his party.
Oh, yeah.
Which is always a good time at E3. A couple housekeeping things. First of all, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but holy cow, Sifted Elite. Holy cow. You guys
A lot of green.
blew me away. I cannot believe the response to Sifted Elite. Again, we'll get to it a little bit later in the show, but just right off the top, I just want to thank you guys. I'm humbled completely. It went far beyond my expectations for what it would do. Thank you. So, one little thing we want to talk about before we get the show set off proper. Big update today to the PlayStation format. PlayStation 4 version 3.5. Matt, there's something in there that you've been waiting for a long time.
It tells you when your friends are online.
Yeah!
It's amazing. What is this crazy cutting-edge technology Sony has developed?
There are so many things. And I was doing research for the show and like collecting all the information about this update. There's so much stuff in this update that I had just assumed was there.
Yeah.
Which maybe it says something.
You mean like being able to set yourself to appear offline?
Yeah. How is that not a part of it?
People have been wanting that since the PS3.
How has that not been a part of PSN?
No one knows. Some things man was not meant to know.
Yeah, so the biggest thing, obviously, is PC Remote Play.
Right.
That's the biggest update. Basically, you can stream your PlayStation 4 via network and play it wherever you want, really.
I have not done myself, but apparently it works pretty well.
I have not done it myself, but I did watch several videos of it today in action. It looks really good. I think the test, though, was in the same home, so you couldn't really see, say somebody's trying to play their PlayStation 4 across the country. It was kind of on the same network. But basically, you just have to download a little client for your PC, and off you go. Obviously, I'm guessing, a pretty big response to what Microsoft was doing already. But a welcomed addition nonetheless. User-scheduled events. Basically, if you want to get everybody together to play, you can create a schedule and everybody will show up. You get together, you party up, and you go play.
Really makes the communities mean something now.
Yeah, well, you can search for communities now. So all of you guys who have been struggling to find the Sifted community on PSN, you can now just search for it, and you'll be able to find it. I know people were doing a workaround before where they would ask me to be their friend, and then they could find the community that way. You don't have to do that anymore. You can just search for it on PSN, and it's lickety-split. Online notifications, USB music player, not that big a deal. Maybe for some people, not for me personally.
But another one of those, it didn't already do that? Kind of
yeah,
things.
I don't understand why it won't just stream from my PC. Again, that's something that was in last-gen consoles that you would think would be an easy addition. Now you can set your status to offline. So, which again, I can't believe. Like when you review games now, or before, when you would review games, they'd send you this sheet and say, here's all the privacy settings you need to change when you play this game for review so people can't come and look at your trophies or anything like that. So now it seems like it might be easier.
At least so people can't see what you're doing.
Right. Immediately what you're doing.
At the very least, handy for people who want to play Dead or Alive Extreme 3.
Yeah. They're too embarrassed. There's team accounts now. I'm guessing that has more to do with competition, esports, things like that. And then a whole slew of updates to PlayStation Plus as well. I would say this is probably the most significant update since launch.
Yeah, I would say. It's certainly in terms of usability and the options and power it gives the player.
And the things that you actually really want.
Yeah. basic functionality.
Yeah, that we had just assumed. A lot of it, I mean, I probably will never use.
Right.
Obviously, I would never use it because a lot of it I assumed was already there. I just wasn't using it. So, slowly but surely, I mean, man, this late in the game to have some of this stuff just now coming online.
Yeah, I don't mean Sony has always been a little behind the curve on the online stuff.
Why does Microsoft kick their butt so hard with this? Although Xbox One's not in much better shape.
No, I mean originally I think the answer would be Sony makes hardware and Microsoft made OSs.
Yeah, that's a good
which
point.
Means they knew how to do that better than Sony did. Also, I think for a while you kind of had the thing where it's like, well, PlayStation Network was free. You're lucky you didn't get anything, But now it's a service in the same way that Xbox Live is, and they had to kind of can't keep up with the Joneses. And with that and with these new things in place, I'd say they're kind of ahead of Xbox again if they weren't already.
Yeah. Xbox One is still so clunky, man.
It is, and it's
still
behind the 360. And that's the funny thing is when you load up like a backwards compatible 360 game on the Xbox One, and it kind of goes into that 360 shell, and you're like, oh, look at the superior operating system you've shown me from your play. It's weird that they even let you see that, because
the other problem I have with Xbox One.
Bring back the blades.
Yeah, seriously, I'm totally down with that. The other issue I have with Xbox One is like if I go to an app, say I go to the YouTube app. And I watch a couple YouTube videos, go back and watch TV, and then come back to the YouTube app, it almost always crashes. Mm-hmm. I have to go back to the dashboard, hit the start button, and then close the app, and then reopen the app anew for it to work again. And that happens with a bunch of different apps. It happens with my Amazon Video app,
Yeah, the Xbox One stuff seems much more unstable to me.
Yeah, it's just slow and sluggish. Yeah. Like, you click something and you think it's not, accepting the input. So you hit it again, and then it catches up, and it goes through 5 windows, real fast.
Even worse when you're trying to hit the B button to back out of whatever, and it doesn't register, and you're like, come on, and then it backs all the way out.
All the way out, yeah.
Click something else, you're like, I don't even know where I am now.
Yeah.
Or even I haven't played Quantum Break yet, but I'm like, oh, maybe I'll pick up Quantum Break, and I go and they've got the big thing, Quantum Break, get Quantum Break right now. I click on it, and it takes me like a commercial. I went to a video. I'm like, where's the game? And
all that power. What are they doing with the Xbox 360? I
had to click through 3 screens to get to the part where I could purchase the game, and by then I decided I didn't want to. You blew the impulse buy,
Out of principle, yeah.
I was going to do it, and I was like, maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's great this update is out there. I'm still pretty disappointed, and this far along that we're getting these features now on PlayStation.
Well, hell, I mean, friend notification and the ability to do the schedule thing are my most wanted for I don't know how long now. So
yeah.
I wish it was a year ago, but I'm happy now.
I'm just glad that people will be able to join the Sifted community on PSN much easier.
That one's so weird. It's why would you create that feature and not let people find them?
I know, it's insane.
That seems like job 2 after make thing. You know,
well, coupling on that, though, the other cool thing about it is that once people are a part of that group, we can set up play sessions now on the Sifted group, and then we can all get together. Everyone will get notifications. Everyone can come together, and we can all play together. So, lots of cool stuff in there.
We can rule the dark zone.
Yeah, lots of cool stuff in there. A long time coming, but as Ryan Stevens always liked to say, better late than pregnant. So
true.
And with that, it's time to get to the Big 6. Doom. We do this every time. Doom.
Doom.
It's such a fun word to say. And almost more fun to play.
Almost.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to play it over the weekend?
I did not.
You did not. I played it for 5 or 6 hours. I actually was completely oblivious to the fact that the demo only lasted the weekend, or I would have played it even more. I thought it was going to go for 5 or 6 days. Nope. It was literally a 2.5 day, 3 day closed beta. Just 2 maps and 2 modes. Both of the modes were team-based, which, for me, I don't know. When I think of
free-for-all deathmatch guy in the Doom realm.
Well, that's Doom, isn't it? I mean, when you think of Doom, you don't think of team-based objectives or anything like that. You just think about running around you against everybody else trying to survive.
True.
Yeah, I'm really kind of stuck in the middle on this game, to be honest with you, because a lot of people are like, "Well, is it Doom?" But is it being Doom a good thing in this day and age, Matt? Do you think that that's something that holds up? I mean, there's a lot of arena shooters kind of coming back around again. There's like that free-to-play Unreal game that does okay, but not great. Like Cliff Bleszinski's making Lawbreakers, which is another arena-based shooter.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're trading very hard on the Doom name to get people interested. Just, you know, and it's funny though, because like, you know, for a long time, Doom clones were sort of the constant of the shooter genre, and now it's like, oh wow, a dark shooter that's set in hell with demons and crazy weapons. Like, that's so unusual now.
Now it's like every game.
Yeah, and like, you know, so I'm wondering, like, maybe it might get some traction just off the fact that it's Doom and the fact that it's not yet another, you know, military shooter like based in some form of reality. Yeah, I can't say it's like at the top of my must play list right now. I mean, I guess I didn't play it on the beta just because I didn't really prioritize it. Yeah. You know, I was playing other things and doing other things in real life, and it just wasn't on my radar.
It's the reason I was saying it's kind of caught in the middle is
it's pretty though.
It is pretty. And it runs like greased lightning.
Yeah.
Like the frame rate in it is just ridiculous. But like looking at this map right now, the footage that we're showing you, like I have not played a shooter on maps like this in forever.
It's very classic.
Where you have like these pathways that you have to run down, and there's like there's choke points on the map. Like all first-person shooters now, or most of them anyway, kind of have like a 3-lane system, like a MOBA, and they're kind of open, and you can find multiple ways to get to a particular place on the map. You can go up through a building and climb out a window and drop down. You can run around the side of the building, run around the other side. Like this game, there's kind of one way to get up to a place. And so in some ways it's good because it encourages confrontation. You're forced to fight constantly. There's no camping in this game. That's one thing I'll say. You can't cower in the corner of a room somewhere and poke your head out of a window every once in a while trying to get kills. Like you are engaged 100% of the time, but it also felt like a lot less tactical, which I don't know if tactics and Doom really go together all that well anyway. So that part of it feels old, but then other parts of the game are very clearly created with the modern shooter in mind. There's like a whole progression system. Like you start the game, you create your character. There's tons of there's only 2 armor sets in the beta, but you can see where it's all headed. There's going to be a ton of armor sets. You can color each piece of armor however you want. There's a lot of customization in the helmets and everything. Like it's pretty robust as far as like the character creation and as far as unlocking new items and things like that in the game. There's no rebounding health in this game. You pick up health. That is old
classic Doom
school. Yeah, and you pick up ammo too. Although I would say like with the weapons in this game, most of them there's like no reloading. Because you have to pick up like the packs to kind of recharge them, and they're all like energy weapons, so to speak, that just run on that battery. So it's like, you know, you have that habit of when you play shooters that you get a kill, you reload, or you fire and you reload it. It took me a long time to kind of break that habit of constantly hitting the reload button every time I fired the gun. So there's an alt fire for each weapon, but the alt fire isn't all that different. Like sometimes it'll just give you the ability to like aim down the sights, or it'll give you a scope or something like that. There's nothing that like changes it like a normal weapon into like a BFG or anything like that. One cool thing, and you saw it earlier, is you can pick up these tokens in the game. I think they're called demon tokens, and you literally turn into a demon, and you play as that demon for a set amount of time. There's only one demon in the beta, and this demon you can fly. You have like dual rocket launchers like over your shoulder, and you basically just are like invincible for as long as it lasts. Not completely invincible. You can be killed, but it takes like a lot. And then if you are killed, the other players can then pick up that token and play as the demon. It seemed like maybe 5 to 10 seconds to me. I don't know exactly how long it was. So they can kind of turn the tide real quickly by turning into that demon, but it did kind of add a whole different element to the game. Like, as soon as you turn into the demon, the whole other team is just, like, on you, like, going after you. So while you have, like, this crazy overpowered weaponry at your disposal, there's also the whole other team basically trying to wipe you out because they know that you can basically one-hit kill everybody. After you die in the game, you can change the loadout every time, so you're not stuck with whatever loadout you have.
Wow, you really won that one. 250 to 17.
Yeah. So yeah, there's you can change the loadout after every death, and then there's these like buffs that you can select before you respawn that give you like little boosts to your defense or your offense, and there's a variety of them that you can pick from. So that keeps you from being locked into that one loadout. If you're not playing well or whatever, you can switch it up on the fly. No sprint in the game, which makes it feel old school as well.
You move real fast anyway.
Yeah, the default speed in the game is like insane. And look, no one's ever going to play this game and be like, I think it's too slow. Like it needs a sprint. Like that's just not going to happen. There is a double jump though.
I saw there's looks like there's mantling as well. If you get near enough to an edge, you can kind of pull yourself up.
Yeah, that is one part of the game I would say is a little janky. Like it just doesn't feel fluid and fast enough. Like it kind of slows things down. But there's like portals and jump. I mean, for the most part, it is an old school shooter. I mean, other than like the progression system and the whole armor sets and things like that, it feels like an old school game. And like I said, I played it for 4 or 5 hours. I didn't really get sick of it in the amount of time that I played it.
It's pretty fun to watch.
It is. And you have the finishers where you can assassinate people with melees and things like that. I never got motion sick playing it because the frame rate's so solid.
Oh, well, we'll throw you in the VR goggles. We'll see about that.
I couldn't imagine playing this game in VR, man. Holy crap. But again, it was a really limited beta. 2 maps.
Just enough to tell you it's Doom.
2 modes, yeah. And an open beta starts, I believe, next week. They just announced today. I think it's April 17th or whatever it kicks off.
About that sounds right.
And it'll be available for everybody. Hopefully, they release more content for it, because even in the 5 hours I had, I was like, yeah, I'm starting to get a little tired of these 2 maps that I'm playing on over and over again. But yes, everyone's going to be able to get a taste of this really soon. It's going to be a free beta. I definitely recommend checking it out, whether you're a Doom fan or not. I had a blast playing it for the limited amount of time that I did. You have any questions about it, Matt?
I have more questions about the single player, I guess. Because that seems like more of an X factor. This feels like it's a throwback in a good way. At least if you liked those old games, and I did.
So the pickups are health, armor, and ammo. So you can kind of get over armor.
Golden triangle.
Yeah.
So do you did it bring back pleasant memories of playing the old shooters? You feel like it doesn't have enough to hold interest very long? Does it have like a Battlefront shallowness to it, or you think it will sustain?
Honestly, if I had to compare it to any shooter that I've played recently, I would say Halo 5 is what it feels the most like. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, look, Halo's kind of moved left to center a little bit. The last installments, moving a little bit closer to something like this, and I feel like these 2 games have kind of met in a weird center, maybe, is the best way to put it. But it's fast, it's different. I mean, that's probably the best thing I could say about it, is that I don't feel like I'm playing just another shooter when I play it, which in this day and age is saying something, because they all just kind of feel the same. So I don't know that this game would have done well if it tried to be like every other shooter, and I don't know if it would have done well if it was just Doom either.
Yeah, I don't think you wanted to go the home front route with this one. It needed to be what its pedigree says it's going to be. I mean, just looking at the armor shards sitting around, you know what you're looking at.
Oh yeah,
it's
shotguns, appropriately powerful.
Yeah,
you basically, even against the demon, you can kill the demon with just a few rounds of buckshot up close.
So if you're playing that, can you imagine obviously this seems like a pretty straightforward map. Can you imagine other map types from the old days coming back? You think this is going to be kind of a greatest hits of the old map design?
I'm sure, and I wouldn't be surprised if literally old maps come back as DLC. I think they announced the season pass is $40 or something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if the first DLC pack is straight up just all old Doom maps. And that would be smart. I mean, people want to play those old maps with this new tech. So yeah, I mean, I honestly, playing on these maps with these really narrow walkways where you can fall to your death, I mean, it's really weird playing a shooter like that again. It's been a long time since I've played a Quake or an Unreal, so it was an eye-opener. It took me a long time to just strafing and things like that. You're so used to being able to just strafe to infinity. You strafe in this game more than 3 or 4 feet, you fall off the edge. So it makes you think about shooters differently than you think about them currently, but it's also how you thought about them a long time ago, I guess is the best way to put it. And some would say, oh, there's a reason shooters have kind of moved away from this sort of design and these kind of maps. And you know what? In some ways, I would agree with that, but
I feel like there's room for both.
I definitely agree with that.
And this type has been ignored so long that I think it's at least worth them, doing it and trying it and seeing if people take to it like we did back in the day. Because part of the reason they were like this was because that was the limit of the tech at the time.
Yeah.
But we still had fun.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, a lot of younger players have probably never even played a shooter like this, ever. Unless, how many millennials have gone back and played the original Doom? I'm guessing not a ton of them. So
not too many. I don't know. Is it on iPad?
Good one.
Probably.
It probably is. Or somebody modded it and hacked it to make it work on iOS or whatever. So overall, I would say, if I was going to answer, has my hype level increased or decreased based upon the beta, I would say it's increased slightly. Mm-hmm. I had a really good time with it. Again, didn't play it a ton. So, I can't say that it's not going to wear thin quickly. After 5 hours, I wanted to keep playing more, and I'd only played the same 2 maps and 2 modes over and over again. So, again, this is just the multiplayer. There's a whole single-player campaign coming that, I am a little nervous about, I think.
Yeah. I'm wondering for the single-player campaign, I'm very curious how they're going to handle difficulty. Because these games were hard as nails
back in the
day. Even on easy mode, you were going to have to be pretty good to finish it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm curious if they're going to tone that down or if they're going to embrace it.
Or going to turn it into, the Dark Souls of first-person shooters.
Well, looking at this, I'm maybe they're going to embrace it. They don't seem to be shy about, we're doing this 1995 style, son.
Yeah.
So maybe they will. It'll be interesting, especially in a world with no God mode.
Yeah. Maybe that's the first thing we can set up, though, for the Sifted group on PSN. Maybe we can set up a session where we play the Doom open beta next week with all the Sifters. Be a lot of fun. Be interesting to get everyone else's impressions of it, too, in the comments and whatnot on the site once everyone else gets to give it a spin. But overall, I was impressed with it. It's polished. It's a quality product. It's a Bethesda game through and through. I think the multiplayer in this was actually done by a different studio. I think it was actually done by a studio that worked on Halo, maybe, at one point or another. So maybe that explains why I'm getting that vibe off of it.
The double jump really looks Halo 5-y.
Yeah, for sure. A little floaty, gives you a little room for error.
It really looks like the same timing.
It might be exactly the same.
I don't know.
I'm guessing that's one thing that Microsoft can't patent is a double jump. So you never know, though.
I don't know if Namco can patent a load game.
But look, we don't know yet about the progression in the game, how the unlocks work. How long is it going to take for you to unlock new armor and other cosmetics and things like that. You can paint your guns too, which I never even bothered doing.
That guy who killed me has amazing green gun.
Right, exactly. And, I'm sure this is going to get microtransactioned out the ass. And so it'll be interesting to see how they work out.
Can't wait to see the card collection system.
Right, yeah, exactly. So that stuff's all up in the air. We don't know about all that yet. It could be a total disaster. They could do it really well. Bethesda typically handles that stuff pretty well. So I have some confidence that
they were the first penguin in the water with the horse armor.
That's right.
So they've learned. They've learned longer than anyone else. Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed it. Hopefully next week we can all get together and play it as one big Sifted group. At the very least, hopefully we can get a team together so we can stay together and take on other teams and just totally kick some butt. So yeah,
we shall crush the easy allies.
I would really enjoy playing with you guys playing this game. It's also very simple and easy to pick up. It's not complicated. There's no real attachments on the guns. Your guns aren't leveling up. I would say that in some ways it is kind of a shooter for people who don't play a lot of shooters, maybe, is a good way to put it. So we'll see. But it's time to move on. Next we're going to talk about another Nintendo employee getting fired, another Treehouse employee getting fired. So you may remember, it was 3 months ago the other guy got...
Yeah.
So 3 months ago, one of the guys from the Treehouse went on a Nintendo fan site podcast and said entirely too much.
Yeah. Although not crazy too much. it's like too much in the Nintendo world.
I felt like I knew Nintendo better than him.
Yeah.
Because watching the podcast, I'm sitting there like saying,
I could have told you. That,
no, don't do it.
A lot of other companies I don't think would care.
No,
but Nintendo, you knew that you're violating kayfabe there for the pro wrestling fans. You're not allowed to admit anything's wrong in Nintendo world.
Yeah. So he lost his job, and now this week, another member of the Treehouse, who also handled a lot of their streams at E3 and demoed games live, has lost her job. Allison Rapp is her name. There's a little bit more that gets mixed up in this, though. In fact, there's a lot more that gets mixed up in this versus the case prior. So, a little bit of backstory. She's quite liberal on her Twitter account. She's posted pictures of herself in
suggestive
lingerie, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And very, she was told to knock off that kind of stuff and the feminism stuff on her Twitter by Nintendo. Yeah. I know there was the internet dug up a whole bunch of her master's or her thesis in college involved pedophilia and all this. Some pretty edgy opinions.
Yeah, she had written some paper in college where I don't think that she was basically saying pedophilia was okay. It was like a society comparison between the West and Japan. Right. And she was explaining how in Japan things are different and it's kind of accepted there to find younger teenagers attractive. I don't even like talking about this stuff. I feel dirty talking about it.
But basically it's weird that a lot of people that was used as ammo against her, and there was a kind of a smear campaign started against her. Nintendo says that the firing had nothing to do with that. It also and I'm kind of inclined to want to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt, because all her papers and stuff were out there for you to see when you hired her. I have a hard time believing they didn't research. I figure Nintendo must research their hires pretty thoroughly, right?
Yeah. Well, Nintendo is saying that the reason that they're canning her is because she was moonlighting on a second job. Mm-hmm. I think the job was being a model, or was some kind of photography of some kind. I don't know if it was.
I don't know specifics on that.
Me either, and I don't want to assume anything about it because someone lost their job over this. But the bottom line is that she was doing another job. She says to pay her student loans, which a lot of us can probably sympathize with.
Not an outlandish claim by any means.
But the bottom line is when she signed the contract with Nintendo, on that contract it says you can only work for us. And so for me, on an absolute base level, I'm on Nintendo's side here because she signed something and then broke the contract. And regardless of all the periphery and the peripheral stuff that's going on around
Nintendo's timing is bad on it. Maybe wanted to wait until all that died down a little more before making that choice. But it also comes, Nintendo's image is squeaky clean. That's how they do it. They go by the letter of their own law. And just like the guy with, who talked about Xenoblade on that podcast, it's you step out of line of the family, the family's going to whack you.
She was mixed in with Xenoblade Chronicles X as well, because people erroneously said that it was her fault that they took out the boob slider in the game to adjust.
She argued to keep it.
Right. So. But, the whole Gamergate thing went after her, and so here's the thing. So the executive director of the IGDA yesterday comes out against Nintendo and was you don't realize what you're doing. You are empowering these Gamergaters, whatever you want to call them, trolls really, who basically got her fired because, like you said earlier, so Nintendo, you would think, did its due diligence and researched this person before they hired her. But the truth of the matter is most companies just don't really have the time and the resources to do that. If there's one company that I would think would do that, though, it's Nintendo.
Just, the Disney of this industry, basically.
But when you're hiring and firing so many people as a company that size, it's really impossible.
Yeah. But I think it also comes down to kind of Nintendo. Nintendo really seems to, with their employees, especially their public-facing employees, have that sort of attitude of don't stand out, don't be too unique. Don't have an opinion on too many things that don't involve what we're supposed to have opinions on, And
it's no way to live.
No,
in all honesty.
And she wasn't interested in living like that, and so, she kind of tried to do what was true to herself and keep her, what I assume was a pretty great job, and I'm sure that's fun, being the Treehouse people. And Nintendo decided it wasn't, which is too bad because she was good at it. I think, from what I saw of her when she would do streams.
Well, she certainly has a passion for games,
for sure,
without a doubt.
I'm sure, and at the same time, it's I hate that someone lost their job over all this bullshit. But at the same time, I feel like she'll find enough people in the industry are aware of what happened here that I think there's plenty of companies that would be happy to have her.
Yeah, I mean, look, people are already rallying around her. The IGDA came out and said that. That's a huge freaking deal.
Do you think Nintendo cares what the IGDA says?
No. Why would it care at all? I mean, Nintendo of America may care a smidge. Nintendo of Japan don't give two squirts about it at all.
Yeah, and for some reason, I just picture Nintendo of Japan like, the what?
The huh?
The who and the where?
The who?
I don't know.
What's her name again? They don't care about that at all. But, I mean, and look, again, on a base level, I find her at fault completely because she should have read her contract and knew what was in the contract and knew what she could or couldn't do. She should also know that she works for Nintendo. She saw somebody else get fired 3 months ago for things like this. She knew what she was getting into when she decided to moonlight. So, in some ways, I feel like she probably knew that it might have happened, or maybe it was one of those passive-aggressive ways of her quitting. She knew she was...
Hard to read her mind on that one.
Exactly.
But, it's just... It's kind of sucks that if you work for certain companies, you have to really toe a certain kind of imaginary line.
Well, Nintendo was put in a weird position here because what she did is a fireable offense.
Right.
And,
just like what the guy did on the podcast.
Exactly. By their company standards, people get fired for that. So, what do you do if you're Nintendo? Because, look, Nintendo's not dumb. It knew that Gamergaters... Look, the truth of the matter is Nintendo can deny it all it wants, but... The Gamergaters and the people who were spamming their social media accounts, sending them emails, were doing all the research for them. Nintendo may have never found that college paper if it weren't for these activists, or whatever the hell you want to call them, calling their attention to it and sending them all these photos that she had posted on her Twitter account from years and years ago. Obviously, Nintendo had not done the research and found that stuff until these people went after this girl and basically ruined her career in some ways. It was really dirty what they did to her. So Nintendo's in this really awkward position where they're like, okay, well, we found out about a lot of stuff that we don't like from these online terrorists, really. But she did do stuff that we know about without their help that's a fireable offense. But if we can her right now, then it's going to empower all these cretins on the internet. Because now look at all these people who went after her and sent all this stuff to Nintendo.
They think it was a victory.
Oh, yeah. They're pounding their chests. They're like, oh, that's because of us. Look, we made change. That part of it really freaking sucks. To see those people get a victory is really bothersome. And
even if it's only in their own head.
Right. But that's all that matters to them. They don't care about anything else.
It just means it's going to be worse next time.
Right, because now if they find the next person to pick on, they're going to be relentless because they know that ultimately if they dig up enough and are big enough jerks, they can make a change and they can get that person fired. I mean, going back to the whole thing with Intel and Gamasutra, where
even though the only change you're making is literally to this one person's life.
Yeah,
you're not this didn't change Nintendo for the better.
Right,
the industry isn't better for this happening.
And so here's the question, though. So let's pretend we're Nintendo and we know all of this. We know that all this stuff was brought to our attention because of these jerks, basically, that we don't support, we don't believe in, but we still have all this information. How do you go forward, Matt? I
don't know. I mean, if I'm Nintendo in that situation and I'm being a ruthless corporate person, I'm thinking that in the next year or so, this, we're into the NX fiscal year now.
Yeah.
The fiscal year, it started in April, ends at the end of next March. This is the fiscal year where the NX is supposed to come out, right? We're somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It means for the next year, you got to control your message flawlessly.
Yeah.
So you want to eliminate any kind of X factor, anything like that. So I can see them saying look, we don't want this person who moonlights and does things outside of our brand preference, and we don't want these crazy people continuing to come at us when we're trying to communicate to our potential customers for this new system in the coming months. I think they did that as a combination of those two things.
My question was actually, that's a great response, by the way. You took a different angle, though. My question was actually, how do you go about letting her go?
Oh. I don't know.
I mean,
I have no HR experience,
right.
Really. I don't know what the right. I mean, my empathetic response is, hey, at least wait until the screaming about it dies down, so you can dismiss her without this kind of circus around it. But, who knows if it was going to die down? How long was it going to take to die down? Would you ended up having people still screaming about it during like the Nintendo Direct at E3 or whatever happened?
I mean, that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, their press conference at E3 could turn into a shit show if people decide to step up and make a statement. I mean, we saw what happened to Anita Sarkeesian at E3 last year when people plastered her face like all over the streets, all around the convention. Like, you just don't know. Like. Somebody could go into their press conference and just be a total nuisance and have to be thrown out. Like, I mean, if you're Nintendo...
Somebody could ask Miyamoto in Japanese if he likes working at Nintendo.
Right, I mean, exactly.
That was an old E3 reference for you old school folks.
Exactly. So, I mean, does Nintendo go to her and say, look, we're going to fire you. And we don't want people to think that these jerks... or the reason you're being fired. This is the reason you're being fired, because you're moonlighting, and you signed the contract, and we'll show you in a contract where it says you can't do that, and you broke one of our rules. But we don't want to empower these jerks to make them think that they're the reason that you're losing your job. So maybe they say to her, look, leave today. We'll pay you 2 or 3 months severance. You'll be paid to sit at home while you look for another job or whatever. You'll sign an NDA, so you can't go on Twitter or Facebook and say, I've been canned and Nintendo sucks or whatever. We'll pay you for 2 or 3 months. We'll let kind of all this blow over so people can't immediately associate the Gamer Gators with this move that we're making. And we'll pay you for it. And then in 2 or 3 months, you move on. And hopefully by then you've already found another job and you have a smooth transition. Like, there were better ways to do this. Is what I'm trying to say.
Probably. And I get, we'll never know the internal details of what happened there, or who even demanded that the action be taken. Who knows how far up that went. I don't know. I don't know how Nintendo works inside like that.
Well, nobody does. It's like an iron wall.
It's like the fucking Wonka chocolate factory in there.
Well, if you talk about it, you lose your job.
Right,
so. Yeah. But, I mean, look, it's hard for me...
Probably no more interviews from Treehouse people for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
If I was in the Treehouse, I wouldn't come out of my house at this point.
Well, they didn't for 20-some years. I mean, that's the thing about the Treehouse.
That's right. They've been around forever.
They have been around forever, and they were never allowed to talk to anybody. I remember one time a guy from the Treehouse came to deliver, it was like the Wii debug or whatever, like the first Wii.
Where everything had to be locked to the...
Yeah, they chained it to a desk and locked it with the bolt lock and everything.
And if you remember if it went offline, if it got turned off, they'd call you.
Oh yeah,
it's what happened to the Wii?
No, they had my phone number. They called me 3 times at 3 or 4 in the morning. They're like, your Wii just went offline, and I'm like, bro, it's 4 a.m. I'm like, there's nobody there. Yeah. No one's taking it. They're like, well, you need to go, and they're made me go into the office at as early as you can get there, and I was 7, and they're like, can you get there earlier than that? And I'm like, no, I can't.
We had that happen when the power in the building went out.
Yeah, that's all it took.
And they're like, the power's out. We're like, well, you're talking to me. I'm like, yeah, the phones aren't out. The power's a different circuit.
Yeah, we flushed our AC system or whatever, and
they're like, well, you really need to get that back on as soon. And we're like, we're still trying to figure out if the show's going to happen today.
Yeah,
we'll
I'm not worried about
Wii
your
in a minute.
Debug. Right? Yeah. So that was the first time I really got to talk to a Treehouse employee. They used to send PR people back in the N64 era to sit there and watch you play the game. Literally, they'd bring an N64 with a steel cage around it with this huge ROM on the top.
Oh, yeah, the giant, foot tall ROM.
Yeah. And they'd sit there and watch you play the game the whole time. But those were just PR reps from Golan Harris, their PR firm or whatever. This was the first time I ever met a Treehouse employee. And I was like, you're from the Treehouse? I'm like, they let you out? And he's like, this is the first business trip I've ever gone on other than going to Japan to our studios. Yeah. So, yeah. They have been locked away for decades, and then finally they let them out, and look at what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of an inevitable outcome of the social media and streaming phenomenon is you want your internal experts having some kind of contact in that form with the community, because that's how you communicate with them now. That's
how you build your community, and Nintendo right now needs all the goodwill it can get.
It's
so,
true.
Yeah, this is the last thing Nintendo needed to happen.
Yeah, I know. They're going to have to start hiring Mormons or something. I mean, it's what it reminds me of. It's kind of
a lot of those Treehouse
some real
people,
deep background checks happening here.
I mean, a lot of those Treehouse people kind of look that way already. I mean, they're all just crazy happy and positive and...
Well...
At least on the outside.
I don't know. Maybe they're all roiling seas of turmoil inside, but like they all... I mean, also, that seems like a pretty good job.
Yeah.
You know? Working at Nintendo, you're in Seattle, it's good times, you're playing Yoshi games for work. There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't know. I've talked to some people from Nintendo who didn't enjoy their jobs all that much, so...
You can get any amiibo you want out of that damn company store. There's no shortages there.
Yeah, I mean, don't get crazy discounts, though.
No,
like, you just have to pay for everything.
I think that was when we got a Wii from that store at one point. I think just because like we were up there the same that was when Wiis were gone. Or,
right.
You couldn't find one.
Them, yeah.
Like, oh, we got tons in the company store. You want one? We're like,
yeah,
all right.
we need one.
Everybody because we needed them for the show.
Well, we bought, and we're going completely on a tangent right now, but
it's just like that kind of how weird it is to sort of deal with Nintendo sometimes.
Well, very quickly, they sent us one Wii and then the debug stuff. But one retail unit, and the Wii was like, you couldn't find it. Mm-hmm. So we were like, oh my god, this thing is going to be gigantic. Like, it was selling better than like any console ever. And so we contacted Nintendo, and we're like, we're going to need more units. And they're like, okay, well, you have to pay for them, and we have like a special order thing going on. They're like, how many do you want? And I was like, 5. Like, this thing is going to be like the console for the next like 5 to 6 years. Like, we need 5 of them. And so we paid them, they shipped them to us, and like 4 of them sat there and like were never used.
We did the exact same thing. Like within a year, like people were just using Wiis to hold paper down.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing. It was like we had like 1 or 2 hooked up in the including one of them, including the debug. Yeah. That was really the only one we used after a while. It was like that because that was the only thing you ever needed to review on that system was Nintendo's own games.
Yeah, because there were no other
And
games.
they would come, and they'd unlock the system, and they'd stick the debug disc in, and they'd lock it up, and it'd be like 2 weeks, and we're coming back for it.
Yep.
And you're like, okay.
I better get this done in 2 weeks.
We'll do that. Hope you don't need any more footage of Mario Kart.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to the topic, Matt, can you see any way where you feel any sympathy for this girl? I mean, look, I feel bad that these people went after her. And
I feel sympathy for the fact that she was a target of bullying and this online bullshit. I mean, if she really was fired because she was moonlighting as whatever, and that's against Nintendo's contract. I mean, it sucks that happened, or that she felt the need that she had to supplement her income or her student loans that way. But like Nintendo's got to follow its own policies. So
I also have a feeling.
I mean, that's the nature of corporate life. That's why you don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
I mean, I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying like that's a fact of life when you're in that situation, and it sucks. And sometimes it's going to hit you in the face.
Too, that Nintendo may not have known that she was moonlighting until like the harassers dug up.
Yeah, I definitely think it's very possible that they had no idea any of this was happening. Because how much are you checking up on your own employees, especially because clearly they trusted her because she was one of their public-facing people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a crappy situation all around, really. Yeah. There's no way you can't look at it that way. Nintendo was put in an awkward situation. Mm-hmm. She put herself in an awkward situation, but then other people put her in an awkward situation.
Yeah, but like I said, it's been publicized well enough, and people know what happened enough that I think there's other companies be happy to have her, and I hope she lands somewhere where she's happy with it. I'm sure it's never. If you're a big Nintendo fan, I bet like it. Just like that other guy who was talking about how it's like my dream job is over now and I don't know what to do. And I'm sure there's an element of that if you're a Nintendo kid and like you get that job, it's like how do you ever move on from there?
Well, how do you blow it? In the
you
first
blow
place?
It, right? I feel less bad for him. I think because he sort of he was like
he was asking for it basically.
I would have known not to do that, and I don't work for you.
There,
I wouldn't even tell stories like that about like G4 when I worked there because you just don't know. We work for a giant corporate entity, you just don't know.
Well, just for instance, like we talk about tons of companies on this show, and I've talked about tons of companies throughout my career. But if there's one company in the whole industry when I go to talk about them that I think really hard and think twice about, it's Nintendo.
Oh yeah. Because you never know.
Most publishers are just like, look, that's editorial. You can.
And someone from Nintendo's watching this right now.
I'm sure.
We see you. I know you're there. Send me amiibos.
He'll be like, if you pronounce it amiibo, then I will.
I need a Wii Fit Trainer amiibo to complete the collection.
Yeah.
See you at E3.
But look, Nintendo's the one publisher that like you walk on eggshells around.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like, because they don't need you.
They don't need you. Well, they do need you.
They do need you, but they'll say they don't. They'll convince themselves they don't. I mean,
but they do. They need us and everybody else more than ever.
I mean, maybe they wouldn't blacklist like IGN at this point, but I feel like most other outlets are probably not safe.
No, they'll blacklist anybody.
There's a fly trying to land on me.
Oh, they'll blacklist you. Don't you worry about that.
That's the Nintendo fly. The Nintendo fly is here spying on us. It can hear us through the fly.
Got a little pinhead camera. But yeah, I mean, just, working in the industry, like, Nintendo is the one publisher that, like, you toe the line with. Like, when they send you, like, embargo information for a game, like, you read it, like, 5 freaking times. And make sure, because they're also really confusing. Like, we got Star Fox Zero and Star Fox Guard, like, a week and a half ago or whatever, and the streaming and footage are insane.
Well, see, it's a little. I mean, at least you can say that. There were times back in the old days when they'd say, like, you are not allowed to tell anyone you have this.
Right. Yeah.
It's a little freer, and at least you can say, hey, we got it. We're working on the review.
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, Matt, like, I had it last week and I didn't mention it because like the embargo finally broke for the previews for it. So like previews started going up yesterday. So now I feel okay to mention that I have it because people are already saying, we have it, here's a preview of it. But, yeah, I mean, working with Nintendo, it's like, I felt their sting before. GT felt their sting hard. I mean, and we had been great partners and done great stuff for them, and they just didn't care. They're like, if they feel that you slighted them in any way, it's not pretty. So
it's like living the Godfather sometimes.
Yeah, it is kind of.
Nintendo says, you broke my heart.
Yeah, now I must kill you.
It's like, Reggie, why are you talking like that? It's okay, right?
So, yeah, I mean, we're at the end of this topic, and it's like, I don't feel like I can say, like, my condolences to anyone or best of luck to anybody. Like, it's just a really whacked-out situation that will probably, honestly, maybe we will get the story, though. It depends on her exit. If she got severance, which I have a feeling Nintendo may have given her severance to try to keep the negativity out of her.
I know nothing about their corporate culture in that regard, so I can't even hazard a guess on it.
If she got severance, she won't be able to talk about it at all.
Right.
If she didn't, then I should call her and get the scoop. I should get in touch with her right away. So
my phone's busy. Get off the phone, Klepek. Come on.
Yeah, but hey, future warning to anybody who works at Nintendo, man. You don't mess around. Like, you do what they tell you to do, or you lose your job. That's
Stay in line, you do the dance, and you put that mouse suit on.
Yep. All right, let's move on.
It's like working at Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to the next topic of the Big Six. We're going to talk about Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. Huge demo comes out this week. The demo that Sony put out officially lasted around 16 or 17 minutes. Some of the publications fiddled around in the world a little longer and got 20, 25 minutes out of it, but all pretty much the same area with the same objectives. Matt, what is your overall impressions of this demo?
Feel pretty.
It is pretty.
It's hard to really tell anything. We all know, I think anyone who watched the show knows I'm skeptical of this one just because it's not Amy Hennig steering the ship.
We both are. I think we've both gone on record saying that.
But I thought it felt like Uncharted. Like the characters feel like themselves. They sound like themselves. It wasn't just like, it wasn't a drastic shift in tone or behavior or direction, I don't think. So. You
don't think that there's a drastic shift in direction here?
Well, direction in terms of like you can drive a car around like an open area, sure, but in terms of like how the characters, Nathan Drake seems like Nathan Drake.
Yeah. But otherwise, it kind of is a big departure. I mean, Literally. It's basically like an open world.
Yeah, well, it's like, you can see kind of what they learned and what they did in Last of Us sort of being expanded here. Where like Last of Us had, open areas where you could run around and do stuff and get in fights and stuff. And so I guess this is, it feels more like you're exploring places than following down sort of the narrow pathway that the other Uncharted games had. And Uncharted 3 had a little bit of openness, but not like this.
I was pretty surprised by this.
Yeah.
Also for them to finally show this element of the game off, like, really close to release, this is a big feature change for this game. I'm surprised this wasn't what they led with. Like, this is the new Uncharted. Open world, open areas, bigger, more possibilities, like more flexibility.
Maybe it wasn't ready yet.
I don't know how that could be. I mean, if you build
Naughty Dog's a polish company. You know, like maybe they just didn't feel it was ready yet. And this is, I mean, look at the detail on this thing. Like, who knows how long it took to get all this working right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you noticed or not, but the mud on the Jeep.
Oh, yeah. It's like legit, real time. Like, it's really how the splatter lands on the Jeep.
I don't know if that's the case. I still feel like it might be like textures or stickers like on the windshield and on the thing, but it washes off when you drive in the water. Oh, perfect timing. Like the mud will cake up on the tires as well and like have big clumps of dirt in the tires, and then you go through the water and then you see there it just flies off. So yeah, and you can see the mud there on the windshield. I think when they back out and fly out through underneath this waterfall, it like washes the mud off the windshield.
And they get wet.
Oh yeah, while they're in the Jeep, like
that's a tricky physics proposition. Like that was like the big, a lot of people don't know it because like if we don't know development very well. We don't know like the hardest thing about like Uncharted 2 was that train sequence because they had to have the physics of the world and those had to act on the train, and then the physics of the train had to act on the cars of the train plus the physics of the world and on the rails and the physics of the rails plus the cars plus the characters in the cars being acted upon by the physics of the train and the movement of the train and the physics of the world. It's like this like triple or quadruple level of like physics and interactions, and to make it work right, you have to make it work right because we know what that looks like. And so your brain will be like, it looks fake. So they, that was an incredible accomplishment, and you don't even think about it twice because it looks so natural. You never notice it. And that's kind of the detail that Naughty Dog puts into these things, and that's why they're, frankly, the best right now. And you can see it again right here. They're taking, this is clearly some stuff that could not have been done on the previous generation.
Oh my God, no!
They're pushing it beyond, I think, anything else that's on a console right now, but maybe even PC.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've never seen a game that looks this good. I mean, look, technically, sure, on PC, there's games that push more polygons, maybe have more effects, but I've never seen a game with this much attention to detail. I watched a little doc that showed the whole scene where the Jeep flips over, and he's caught underneath the Jeep, and a fire it catches. And, like, they talked for, like, 5 minutes about getting the flame flickering off of the dashboard of the overturned Jeep, like, just right. Like, most games don't even worry about that stuff. And here's the other thing, too, that they're showing right now that I was really shocked at, is that, like, the Jeep, it isn't just, like, a way from get to point A to point B. Like, there are challenges associated with the Jeep. It has a winch on the front of it. So sometimes if you can't get up certain, like, mud slicks or whatever, you have to winch the Jeep up the mud slick. The other part of it, too, is that, like, the physics for the mud and the water and the rocks are all realistic. So, like, part of the challenge when you're driving the Jeep is trying to find a path of rock where you can actually get a grip with your tires to get up, like, inclines. Here's where they get stuck, I believe. So here's where they start using the tires. They start looking for little pieces of rock that the tires can get a grip on so they can make it up the hill. And then eventually they get to a place where it can't make it.
The spare tire jiggles.
Oh, yeah. And so does the gas can, too. That gas can in the back slides back and forth. So, I mean, it looks stunning. But let's talk about the gameplay. Like, obviously the Jeep is, like, a big deal. It's not just, like, a way to get from point A to point B. Like, there's actually some skill and some strategy involved with using it. But the combat that they show off in this demo, too. So we've seen the whole swing, come down, like, land the punch thing. And I thought that was, like, canned, or like one situation that you use it and it's kind of like this context sensitive thing, but no,
that's pretty much what it's been in the other games.
But no, and like you'll see in this demo, like using the rope and the combat with the rope is actually like a legitimate like gameplay mechanic that permeates like the whole game. Like you get on a rope, you can control like which way you swing can swing around corners to get into like little cubby holes. There's like anchor points for the rope like all over the environment, so you can use it like all the time. Like you tether the rope, you swing down, take out a couple enemies, tether the rope back to where you got it to, swing back to where you were. Like, I'm impressed, man. Like it really feels like it's going to be finally an evolution for this series for the first time. At least that's how I'm seeing it. Now my big concern here is that like, does all this happen at the expense of the set-piece moments? Because, as you know, once you start working in open-world games, like, set-piece moments aren't a big part of open-world games because you kind of have this whole world that you're drawing at once, and, like, it makes it more challenging to do really impressive segments like that. So
I don't think everything in the game has to be open world.
Oh, for sure. And I would be completely flabbergasted if it were.
Right.
But you know what? I was flabbergasted when this started. Like, I started watching this and I was like, what? This is Uncharted? Like,
I don't know.
It reminds me of Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah, it is a Metal Gear 5. I guess it doesn't surprise me all that much based on, like, what we saw at that other demo, which was also mostly driving. Which was obviously
but that was also like a very linear path.
Very linear path, but there were various places to go, and clearly a ton of work had gone into, the driving in that, which never had really happened before to that degree. And I figured like they must be using that somewhere else. And now you have the power to do large areas like this. Why not?
But it does remind me a lot.
It makes sense in terms of this, the setting and the concept of the character, what he does.
Yeah. But it does remind me a lot, this demo, of Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're driving around in this open area, you come to like this encampment, you go in, you clear the encampment, you jump back in the Jeep, you take off, like...
I'm going to guess this one's story is finished, though.
Yeah. But going back to Phantom Pain, it's like, the one thing I really disliked about that game having an open world is I felt like it took away from those insane Metal Gear moments that the series always had, because everything had to play out within the context of this open world. So you really lost a lot of those crazy set pieces that you typically got with the franchise.
Yeah, but I think that like those were supposed to be there and they just never got done.
Maybe they didn't get done because making them work within the context of the open world took way too much work, and it was...
I think it was more because Kojima doesn't know how to stick to a budget and manage a project. Right. Yeah. I feel like these guys, if there's anyone I trust to not do that with this, it's Naughty Dog. They're not going to turn out some, half-assed thing like that. I think it'll be okay. I don't think
I'm not questioning the game's not going to be good. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that like one of the sort of keystone foundational points of this franchise is it's the set piece moments.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they'll have it. I mean, this is a setup for what is kind of a set piece moment here.
Really?
I think it comes out of gameplay more than it comes out of like a scripted sequence.
I hope you don't have to do this very often, by the way. Like going and hooking like your hitch to a tree constantly to drag your Jeep up a hill. Mm-hmm. Kind of cool the first time, not so much by the 10th or 11th time.
Maybe not, but I don't know. Maybe the winch eventually gets empowered to do it on its own. Got a hydraulic
upgrade
winch,
it so it shoots to the tree and just sinks into the tree. That would actually be awesome.
The Bat Jeep.
Yeah. So, more excited, less excited for this game after this demo, Matt?
Probably more, just in the sense that it's just more confirmation that they're pulling all the stops out on this thing. It's not going to be, they could just turn out like Uncharted 4, same as the last one, with better graphics, and clearly they're not going to. And also just the banter's there, the characters are there. If I didn't know that Amy Hennig wasn't on it, I wouldn't necessarily guess she wasn't. So I feel pretty good about that.
I feel like they're showing a lot of restraint in marketing this game.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet in terms of like the saturation we're used to on games that cost this much and are this much of a tentpole.
It's not even necessarily the volume of promotional media or interviews or previews or whatever.
We've also barely seen. It feels like we've barely seen anything.
Right. It's what they show. Like again, like. I don't know that we've really seen a crazy set piece moment. Like there's the whole Jeep chase where you're hanging from the rope along the bridge, but we haven't seen anything of the magnitude of what we expect from Naughty Dog. Like
we certainly haven't seen the train sequence, or we haven't seen the overturning ocean liner sequence.
And look, I don't want to see all that. I want to experience a lot of that when I play the game, but give a brother a biscuit here. Like
I'm sure it's in there.
I'm sure it is, and I know it will be. But
I'm patient. I can wait for it. I
feel like all the promotion for this game has been for people like us so far. Like people who will watch every frame and be like, "Oh my God, he's muddy now. Oh my God, he's not muddy now. Oh my gosh, look at that tire shake around in the back of the Jeep. Look at that gas can move around."
Well, on the other hand, I guess all you really need to do is show some of this stuff. Basically show snippets of the demo that they did at E3 last year in a commercial form to people that because there's tons of the mass audience doesn't know these things come out.
Right.
Until a month before when they start seeing ads on the basketball and the football games. And just play that up, and I think you got it. But again, I'm interested to see what the sales on this are because the other Uncharted games sell about 1 million, roughly 1 million each.
They end up that's like their first few months. Like ultimately,
they're not
they ended
huge
up selling
hits.
They're
not a game you can assume anyone who plays games has played.
Right.
And it was like Sony said, like when they were putting the Uncharted collection out last year, they said like their research showed that somewhere between 85 and 95% of PlayStation 4 owners had never played an Uncharted game.
Yeah.
Which is amazing to me.
Oh, look, this is going to be the best-selling Uncharted.
I think for sure.
By several magnitudes, without a doubt.
So I'm interested to see how many new people they're bringing in on this series with this game.
But if you look back, I mean, by the time Uncharted 3 came out, like, the PlayStation 3's install base was pretty freaking huge.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, it had almost caught up with Xbox
You'd think
360.
3 would have been a bigger game.
Or would have sold better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just something about this series that is just not, it hasn't been like the mega hit so far. I don't know if I can really put my finger on it because I've enjoyed the crap out of all of them.
I love them all.
And I've reviewed every one of them extremely highly. So
I played the first game like probably 5-6 times through.
Yeah.
Just because I keep starting the series over and then I stall out after 2 because 2's long.
It is. The first one doesn't hold up so well now.
But I still like it. I still,
I mean, you can still see that a lot of TLC went into it.
Yeah. But it's just like they came so far with the other two beyond what they did in that one.
I mean, for me, 3 was my favorite one. I felt like that was where, 2 was great. 1 was awesome. 2 was doubly awesome. 3, to me, was where they really just freaking nailed everything.
I think my favorite's 2.
A lot of people say that, yeah. And I can totally appreciate that perspective. But for me personally, it was 3 that I liked the most. So, in my opinion, they just kept getting better and better. So I have no reason to believe that number 4 is going to take a step backwards. But it is interesting to look at what they've shown. They've shown a lot of combat in the promotional media so far, which, it probably is a good idea because that does seem like one thing that they've changed a good bit, or at least expanded on a good bit.
Well, we don't really know the story.
No.
We don't really know what's... I mean, we know his brother is back, and we know...
And he's probably in trouble.
Elena's pissed.
Yeah, but she always is.
And I think his brother is probably going to betray him.
Double-cross him, yeah. See, right here. That is so freaking sweet, dude.
But we don't know, what he's after, really, what he's, what they're doing, how it's going to play out. And of course, a thief's end, we don't know.
Well, then they hint that, he's dying or whatever. Also, this week, Naughty Dog came out and said that it would be totally fine with another studio making Uncharted 5, which they say that now. Wait until that project gets about a year in and they start to look at it and they're like, oh, wait a minute.
I mean, everybody assumes Drake's going to die or whatever, but I feel like it's more likely that he settles down and he's a thief's end. He's no longer a thief anymore.
There's many ways you can interpret it. I mean, I
don't think you want to.
That's freaking awesome right there,
Spider-Man.
Too. Yeah.
Because I don't think you want to close this series off to future installments because I feel like this thing's going to blow up in a certain way. That Sony's going to want more of these. I
mean, Sully's going to die.
You think?
Yeah. Without a doubt.
I think Sully's immortal.
He's the low-hanging fruit in all this, man.
I think that's why he's not going to die. It's too easy.
You can make another Uncharted without him. It's hard to... And see, this is what I talk about with the rope. It's not just this pre-canned, whatever. It's just straight up a part of the fabric of the gameplay.
See, if they made an Uncharted 5, I would want it to be a prequel when Sully was
a young guy, and he's the star.
Well, like a period piece. When
he can die in this one, and they can still do the prequel. But I would say with 80% certainty, Sully is going to... Because it's the ultimate heartstring to pull.
Yeah, but
everybody loves it. Look, you're already getting bent out of shape over it.
Not really. I'm bent out of shape over it because I think it's too easy. It's cliche. It's not Naughty Dog style.
It is a video game.
But it's also Naughty Dog.
Cliches are us.
Naughty Dog doesn't really do that much.
I don't know. Well, he hasn't died yet.
No.
But they're passing it off.
They teased it once.
Sully's going to die. That's what I think.
Too predictable.
I think you're emotional about it. I would be emotional about it. She could. I wouldn't care that much.
You know who I think actually is going to die? I think Chloe's going to show up just to get killed off. I think that's what's going to happen.
Elena's going to kill her. She'll come back. She'll be the double agent with Drake's brother. It'll be Drake's brother and her will be the bad guys, and it's up to Drake and Elena to take him down. And Sully's the collateral damage in the middle that they all mourn when he dies. You heard it here first, the plot for Uncharted 4. So, I don't know. I would be surprised if we get another demo like this before it releases.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we got like another not trailer, but like teaser thing of like, hey, here's a big set piece moment. Like,
they'll put out a launch trailer for sure, where they'll have like 20 frames of each scene or whatever. I know that'll happen. But another demo like this, I'd be really surprised.
No, I don't think they need it.
They don't need it. I mean, that demo,
yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, this is also pretty close to when the game was supposed to come out.
You're right, yeah. So, and it's finished. It went gold weeks ago, so everything's lining up for it to hit its release date, which is good. I don't see it getting delayed again. In fact, I would say with 100% certainty it's not going to be delayed again. So we don't have much longer to wait. It won't be long until we're going to have our hands on this thing. So, hype level up, hype level down after that demo.
I think up.
Hype level up for me too.
It's kind of hard to raise it anymore. It's one of those games I'm sure of, you know.
Well, I'm a big gameplay guy, and the one part of Uncharted I had kind of tired of was the gameplay. Like by the end of the third one, I was like, I really can't like wipe out another room of dudes. Like I just can't do it. And seeing some of the fundamental changes they've made to the gameplay with the semi-open world and the combat enhancements that they've made and the flexibility they've given you in combat, like that has me really excited. I know all the other stuff is going to be great. It's Naughty Dog. The gameplay for me is always the X factor with this series, and it looks like it's headed in a good direction. So, hype level up, hype level up. Let's move on to the next topic. This one,
hype level down.
Hype level down. Yeah, not quite as excited about Miitomo as I was about Uncharted 4. So, Nintendo's first ever mobile app finally out, Matt. Free to play, free to download.
Yep. But not free to dress up.
No. Well, you can earn...
You can earn the coins if you want. But
yeah. So what's your impressions of this, Matt?
It's like Tomodachi Life with less to do.
Yeah. There's nothing to do.
No. I mean, you can answer questions about yourself and learn things about other people, sort of. But like, and it's just...
That is the only positive thing I would probably say about Miitomo, is that I learned things about friends who I've known for a really long time that I never would have learned ever.
I'd say that my main positive thing is having Sean Baby as a friend.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Because every single answer he gives is insane.
Oh, I know.
Like he doesn't. Every answer is just some crazy short story about something else.
His images are pretty funny too. I have to admit. I'm really disappointed in Miitomo. I've got to say. Like, I just don't see the point in it. It's like you already have your own social network. Why did you build another one?
That you have to use those other social networks to build your Miitomo network, too. Like, there's no...
Well, I was talking about Miiverse. Like, you've already built Miiverse.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a social network. That's all it is. And now you built this app that's just a social network. Why wouldn't you just make Miiverse for mobile?
I mean, clearly it's a way to tie your mobile stuff in and your social media stuff in with your My Nintendo account. I mean, it's a fishing expedition almost.
Right, but they could have done that with Miiverse. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand the strategy.
I can't be disappointed by this game because I had no expectations to begin with.
And it's free, so it's hard to complain about free. But on the other side of the coin, it's like we've waited a long time for Nintendo to make its mobile debut.
Well, like, Nintendo's mobile debut is Pokemon Go, as far as I'm concerned. Like this is some kind of like side bet.
It's been number one ever since it launched.
Oh, yeah.
On the App Store. Another thing, too, is the engagement for this thing has been insane. Like, the numbers that they have as far as how long people are sticking with it. I haven't stuck with it at all.
I'm still waiting for you to approve my friend request,
jerk. I downloaded it. I played it the first day. I checked in the second day, and I haven't gone back. Because I felt like everything I was getting in the app, I was seeing in, like, my Facebook and Twitter feed anyway. Like, the cool stuff, like... People making crazy photos and things like that. Like, I got all that organically from everybody using it because it's all hooked into other social media networks.
I've actually seen more Miitomo photos on Facebook than in Miitomo.
Right, exactly. Like, you don't need to use Miitomo to get the best parts of Miitomo out of it. Like, and just for people who maybe haven't tried it, we should probably give a quick synopsis of how it works. You sign up, you can link your My Nintendo account to it right away. Oddly enough, it does not just automatically pull your Mii into the game. I have no idea why.
Very weird.
I had to completely recreate my Mii for some reason. I have no idea why, because it synced my account lickety-split, no problem. So one thing that was really cool, though, is the voice. Did you fiddle around with that at all?
Yeah, I made myself sound like Maximilian from the Black Hole.
I actually managed to make it sound almost exactly like me. Well, it's what I hear myself sound like anyway. You know how like you think you sound one way and then you hear yourself on a recording and you're like, I don't sound like that at all. I sound like Miitomo like how I hear myself as anyway. So it's cool. It's got like that little drag thing, like that little like circular interface where you can drag like the tone and the pitch and everything, and I managed to like finagle it to make it actually sound like me. So
I just made it try to make mine sound as much like an evil robot as possible. But I gave up on trying to make it sound like anything.
Yep. So you do that. You create your me. You select the voice. You put in a couple very simple personal data or whatever, and then it starts asking you questions, like really weird questions, not like what you would expect like a Nintendo app to ask you. Like,
yeah, it seems like kind of like targeted towards older audience in some ways. Where like at least like high school, you know, I guess they don't expect under 13s to really be rocking the social network.
They're wrong.
They're wrong, but like the agreement you agree to, like pretty much, you know, you're not supposed to, you know, if you're under 13, at least in California, you're not supposed to be sharing personal data online. Yeah. That's like a restricted thing. So it's like a lot, you know, a lot of the questions are like, you know, oh, what was your last purchase? Like, you know, where do you eat the most with your friend? You know, it's like, it's clearly expecting you to have some kind of like
life
outside of all this, you know, or like, you know, the thing was like, picture a bunch of flowers. How many flowers do you picture? And like the number of flowers you picture is supposed to indicate how many people you're going to date in your life. And like I've seen some of my friends that are just like millions. I was like, good call.
So after you do that, you answer a couple questions. Then you kind of link your account with your other social media accounts, with Facebook
and Twitter.
And people who have already downloaded the app and linked with Facebook and are friends of yours on Facebook will automatically appear for you to invite to your Miitomo community. And then after that,
you can like listen to things about like answers that other people gave, and you can heart them or comment them. And then like you and then after you stop listening to other answers, the game will usually ask you a question, and then like you answer a question. So the idea is eventually everybody has all these answers built up, and you can sort of like learn stuff about the people you know that you never knew before because you didn't think to ask them any of the questions Miitomo thought to ask them.
Right. Yeah.
Or didn't care.
Or you just wouldn't want to ask them in the first place.
It never occurred to me to ask anyone I know what's your favorite thing about cats.
Yeah.
Most of the answers to that, by the way, have been everything or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, no one has a specific for that one. And then, like, you can dress the me up in different outfits, and like you earn coins by doing like missions, and then like there's like other like rewards coins you can get where you can spend it on like you can right now I think you can spend like 250 reward coins on a Mario outfit that like will go away at the end of the month, and then that's it. You know,
they should have just made, in my opinion, Find Me from the 3DS for mobile.
Would have been more interesting than the drop game you play.
Yeah,
like there's this game basically it's pachinko with a me. Like you drop a me. Usually it's one of my friends.
Yeah,
you drop them down this thing, and if they land on a platform that has like a prize item on it, you get that.
It's like Plinko from The Price Is Right.
Right, pachinko or It's or a game of Lucky Hit.
Yeah.
Who wants to play a game of Lucky Hit?
Yeah.
Care for a game of Lucky Hit?
No, I do not care for a game of Lucky Hit.
Well, Shenmue 3's coming.
Yeah.
Buckle up. So it's like, and it's just like that. It's like weird little things. It seemed to encourage you to check in about 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And take care. You know, it's like that's about all there is to it.
Find Me on mobile would have been awesome. Because
being able to do something with all these people you collect would be more interesting.
Because the problem with Find Me on the 3DS is that everybody had to have a 3DS to get the Street Pass. So if everybody has a mobile phone, so the Street Passes you would get for Find Me on mobile would just be insane. Like,
well, the other thing is like the app drains your battery like you wouldn't believe. Like it halves my power time. Like it's crazy.
So it's rendering everything
even in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I have to like double click my home button and get rid of it completely, or otherwise.
It does have a low power mode option because apparently they knew it's too much of a hog. But
I feel like with Miitomo, everybody's jumping on board because it's Nintendo's first app.
Yeah.
If you or I had released this app, it would be a miserable failure. There would have been like 5 people who would have tried it by now.
Yeah.
Like,
and Nintendo probably would have sued us.
And I just, right.
For the me thing.
And I just don't see the point of it, man. Like, I don't need another social network. In fact, I already have too many social networks. I can't keep up. Like, I have Facebook and Twitter. That's about all I have the bandwidth to keep up with at this point. Like, I can't keep up with, like, Instagram. I don't even have Snapchat installed. Like, I don't
have Snapchat installed because I'm not a 12-year-old girl. I mean,
I don't know. I mean, there's lots of,
I'm too old
20-year-olds.
For Snapchat. That's where I draw the line.
Is that where you admit defeat?
Yes.
I feel like I might be a little too old for Miitomo.
Maybe. My niece was very upset that she wasn't allowed to play Miitomo because her father felt it was too online sherry for a kid her age.
I would agree with that.
And then I was like, that actually was what reminded me that it was out. I was like, oh yeah, I should try that. And so I loaded it up and played with it for a while, came back down later, and was like, you're not missing anything, kid.
Yeah.
You already have Tomodachi Life, just play that.
You don't lose any sleep over it. So I'm pretty disappointed that this is Nintendo's first mobile outing. I hope people aren't turned off by it and recoil.
I mean, it's like it does what it says what it does kind of thing. It's not like it's deficient in what it's trying to do. It's just we're not interested in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not. It doesn't like dampen my spirits for like future Nintendo mobile outings. It just makes me think, well, I didn't think this was going to be for me, and it is not for me.
I mean,
I'll still toy with it. I still play it. I look at it once a day. I'm sure like it'll be fun at E3 when like we see everybody sees each other and we can compare stuff. But like,
it does dampen my enthusiasm for Nintendo's mobile stuff a little bit, though, because I feel like they read the market wrong. Like,
apparently not. If you said it's as popular and attached as it is.
Well, it's only been out for like 4 days. Like, what happens? Are people going to stick with Miitomo, or are they going to go back to Facebook and Twitter?
I don't know. I think
they're going to go back to Facebook and Twitter.
I don't think people are using it instead of those. I think they're using it in addition to those.
I just think eventually it's just going to fall off everyone's radar, and it's going to go away, unless they were to create major enhancements for it or expand it to like maybe a Find Me thing where there's actually some gamification going on there. But if it stays as it is, I don't see its long-term appeal. I just don't see it standing the test of time and people playing it for a long time. It's just like Miiverse. Like when I first got it, I was posting stuff on there and taking screenshots and blah, blah, blah. And after like a couple months, I was like, I don't care.
I've never used Miiverse for anything.
Never once. No. Never posted anything on there.
Don't care.
Wow.
I like seeing the little drawings people make pop up on the big things sometimes, but like I've never participated. I watched all this stuff pop up, the Miiverse stuff pop up around the worlds on New Super Mario Brothers U once, and then I turned that shit off real fast. So I mean, this is a more interesting application of that, but only marginally. I'll keep looking at it till I forget one day and I never return.
And that's what'll happen.
It's just like
I predict that'll be within a week.
Just like every mobile game, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. All right, let's move on to the next topic. We're going to talk about Quantum Break.
Well, you're going to talk about Quantum Break.
Oh, yeah. My Game of Val went up yesterday. I played it, obviously, all the way through once, and I started playing through it again. I did not finish it the second time. I got about halfway through and kind of, in all honesty, I just kind of lost interest the second time through. It's not an especially long game. It's, when you include the FMV and the gameplay, it's around 10 hours. In fact, one of the sifters today posted his completion time, and it was like 5, almost 6 hours. And so I'm guessing that whenever the actual clock in the game doesn't include the FMV. So you're looking at about 6 hours of gameplay from this game for $60, I might add. This is a full-price game. No multiplayer, no connectivity whatsoever, other than kind of like Life is Strange. After you make a decision, you can see the decisions that everybody else made, all your friends, and then they just give you like a raw percentage for like everybody. To see if you kind of fall in line or if you buck the trend and whatnot. This game, for whatever reason for me, like I never saw it as like this hugely hyped game that was supposed to sell Xbox Ones. But I feel like over the last couple days that a lot of people did kind of take it that way. That it was going to be one of those like flagship games for Xbox One that like moved hardware and...
Well, there's so few Xbox One only games, and this one isn't
either.
It
came out
PC
as
well.
already.
Although it sounds like if you're going to play, you should probably play the Xbox One version until they do something about the PC version.
Yeah.
But I can see why people would kind of end up under that impression, because it's like the Xbox has so little to offer that you can't get elsewhere. Like, no wonder people would imagine it's like, well, this must be the reason you need to have this system. It's like, well, maybe not.
It's just the reason I say that is because it's just not one of those games that you see, or at least me personally, anecdotally. I wouldn't, at Christmas, like, my uncle wasn't asking me about Quantum Break. Like, he's a good barometer. Or my nieces and nephews weren't like, what's up with Quantum Break? Like, and they're gamers. Like, they're hardcore gamers. And they know what's up. Like, with games, they know all the hot stuff that's coming. Like, they've never asked me about Quantum Break. None of my friends have asked me about Quantum Break.
I'll be honest, I forgot it was this week.
Yeah.
Until I saw your game eval go up. I was like, oh, is that out already?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it came out yesterday. So, I don't know. I mean, some of the reviews for this have been all over the place.
Yeah, there's no, consensus right now.
None at all. I've seen everything from a 9.5 down to, a 6. Obviously, you saw my game eval. It ended up sitting at around a 5. Obviously, our scores are generally lower than everyone else's, so it's kind of hard to put them in context with everyone else's. But everyone else's scores are all over the map. And I think a lot of it depends on what kind of a player you are. If you really enjoy story-driven games, I think you're going to like this game a lot more than someone who doesn't, because it is a story-driven game. Mm-hmm. I mean, the gameplay, a lot of times to me, and this almost feels like an afterthought.
So is this kind of like a Heavy Rain kind of thing? Or?
No. It's not that bad. I wouldn't utter those words when talking about Quantum Break. No, don't even get that thought in your mind that it's just like a walking simulator or this crazy passive experience. I don't think there's any QuickTime events in the whole game. Mm-hmm. So there is a shooting mechanic in the game where you actually aim a gun and fire it at things. It's not very in-depth, I would say, though. The cover system is context sensitive. There's no button to send yourself into cover. You run up to something, whatever height it is, he just kind of ducks in behind it. And there's obviously there's cover that goes varying levels. Pieces of cover will be at head height, and then it'll go down to waist height. And he'll, if you run along that cover, he'll duck down as the cover gets lower. Consequently, you also have these really weird moments where you're just running through the environment, and he goes from crouching to running to crouching to running because the game is telling him that he's next to this object that's waist high or whatever. So you don't really lock on to the cover. So if you're at the edge of cover trying to poke around and shoot, a lot of times you'll go too far and you'll get exposed and you'll get shot. And look, I think part of that is that they don't want the game to be a stop and pop game, because you also have this entire suite of time shifting powers. And to be completely honest, you don't really need to use the time shifting powers to finish the game. You can just go right through the game just shooting everything and kill all the enemies that way. You don't have to use the powers. If you do use the powers, it becomes a lot easier. If you just try to shoot your way through it, after the third act, it starts to get really tough, and then you're pretty much required to start using your time-shifting powers. But you want to, because they're really fun and really cool, and it's what sets the whole game apart, is the ability to manipulate time. In the early going, it was almost like Blinks, the Time Sweeper.
It's Blinks!
You have all these stupid, platforming puzzles that, where it's oh, this crate fell. Well, now I rewind time and the crate goes up. That type of stuff. And so when the game first started, I was like, no, I don't want to play Blinks again.
Blinks!
I don't.
No one gets that.
No, we do. I don't want to play this game again. That game drove me crazy by the time I got to the end of it. And thankfully, it's just tutorial stuff for the most part. It's just showing you how each of the powers work, and they kind of teach you through these platforming sections, which is a good thing, because the traversal in the game is pretty much awful. So I feel like the game does kind of teach you to just use the powers instead of playing it like a typical run and gun game. But again, you can get through the game playing it that way if you want to. But the powers also kind of break the game a little bit. There's this one power that you have where you hold the left bumper and you run. And basically you're running and time isn't passing. So anytime you get in any sort of trouble, you just hold the left bumper button and run away. And when you finish running, they have no idea where you are. Because to them, you've basically just disappeared.
Right.
So you can just cheese that over and over again. Anytime you get in hot water, you just run away, and then you hear them go, huh? Where'd it go? And then you can just kind of tactically, you can even like draw enemies away from the pack doing that, and then disappear, and then flank them. And it wasn't particularly well balanced for the powers, I guess is the best way to put it. And the first 2 acts of the game is just a joke no matter what. It's like way too easy. Like, I think in the first like 3 hours I played this game, I died more times from getting smashed by a door. Because there's like these doors that like open and shut, like, and you have to use your powers to like pause the door while it's open. And I died more times through that than I did from like combat from the enemies. There's no enemy variety in the game at all. People complain about the Division's enemy variety. Oh, that's like a smorgasbord of enemies compared to this game. Like, there's literally like 5 or 6 different enemies in the entire game. And you shoot the same dudes over and over again. But going back to what I was saying, like, this is a story-driven game. If you can enjoy playing games mostly for the story, you're going to regret buying this game. But on the flip side, the story's really good. Like, it's really good. And, like, FMV has kind of turned into a dirty word in the industry. But the FMV in this game's really awesome. Like, look, it's not Game of Thrones quality. It's not The Wire quality. It's not even The Walking Dead quality. And I say that with a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek. So, because, look, Walking Dead can get pretty damn campy and implausible. But...
that's just the show.
But, like, it's good. Like, it kept me hooked into the plot the whole time. And look, anytime you have, like, a time travel as a big plot device, it kind of gives the writers, like, the leeway to do whatever the hell they want. But I felt like they showed a good bit of restraint in this game and didn't make, too many, like, outlandish things where they, like, went back and said, oh, that never really happened. We went back in time and changed it. Like, sorry. The acting is really good in the FMV. The production values are, like I said, it's like a cheap cable quality, like, production values. Like, some stuff looks really amazing, and then every once in a while you'll get, like, a shot that isn't lit quite right, or they skimped on the location fee and got some crappy location to shoot it. But for the most part, like, the actors do a really, really good job. And look, they paid for some big-time actors for this. Obviously, Iceman is the lead character in the game. You have 2 people from The Wire in it. You have Charlie from Lost. Like, it does kind of have an all-star television cast. I mean, all those people came from great TV shows, and they deliver. Like, the acting is good. There really wasn't any moments in the game where I kind of laughed and, like, chuckled or thought, oh my gosh, that's, like, so ridiculous. Like, and they're long. Like, these FMV sequences, you finish a chapter, an act as they're called in this game, and then they fire off, like, the FMV, and it couldn't last, like, 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Wow. And you said you were having some streaming problems with it?
Oh, yeah. So, for the first 80% of the game, no problems at all. I got towards the end of the game, and it just so happened that I was playing that part of the game around, like, 7:30 or 8 p.m. at our place. And we live in an apartment complex. So around that time, everybody gets home from work, and they all jump on the internet to check their email or surf or go to Facebook or whatever. And so the internet in our building is always slow for this, like, little window. And it's not, like, crazy slow. I mean, you're still getting, pretty good speeds, but normally it's, like, beastly. And this is, like, the time where if you do try to stream, like, 1080 raw footage, it'll stutter a little bit. Well, that's what happened. Like, all these FMVs are not a part of the game's digital code. So if you download the digital version, you're not downloading, like, all that 1080p video. And for good reason. It's like...
It's huge.
Oh, it's like dozens and dozens of gigs. So they stream it, which is crazy. Like, I don't know what's up with the disc version, but I'm guessing you're going to stream it on the disc version too. Because, a Blu-ray can only hold so much information.
It doesn't come on with the disc version.
And so...
They would have had to do another disc.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And so literally, I am at, like, the most pivotal scene, like, of all the FMV that I had watched, which is hours, by the way. And it is, like, the most pivotal FMV scene, and it just stops. And I was like, what? Like, literally just stopped cold. And I was like, okay, I'll be patient. This is really weird. Think about it, Matt. Think about it. Have you ever played a video game? One, where a cinema just stopped, period. But two, where, like, the most pivotal plot point in the whole game just didn't work.
No, that's bad timing.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad luck on my part that it just happened I was playing it.
I mean, I have had FMVs freeze, but it's usually on the Sega CD.
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
So it's just very awkward and jarring to be like, wait a minute, like, and then it started playing, and they'd say like one word and it would stop, one word and it would stop, one word and it would stop, and then finally it just completely crapped out. And when that happens, they give you the option to download them to your hard drive if you want to, the FMV sequences. And apparently, I didn't notice this when I played it, but apparently you could do that right from the beginning if you want as well.
There's a separate, like, if you look at on the digital store, one of the related items is like the FMVs.
Got ya. And I didn't notice that. But I didn't need it until this point. It's like they streamed fine. And I will say, like, the video looks great. Like, that's probably why it stutters, is because it's at a really high resolution and bitrate. So, yeah, like, it was just something that has never happened to me before. And it just so happens that, like, this is the first time a game does something like this, and I get stung by it. And so, it's just weird. Like, if you have, like, DSL or just a crappy cable connection or satellite cable internet, like you live out in the boonies somewhere, like you can't really play this game unless you want to like let your system sit there for like 3 days downloading 80 gigs of FMV. And the other problem too is that like if you only experience a story through the in-game cinemas, you'd have a rough idea of what was going on. It's like you're 100% dependent on the FMV. But the FMV stuff is really where the story comes into its own. Because they're live actors. Right. Like, the inflection, the emotion comes through in the FMV, and that's really an advantage of that medium for this game.
It oddly reminds me of the original Wasteland, where you didn't have FMV, but you had a separate booklet.
Yeah.
And it would tell you, read paragraph 34.
Right.
And
yeah, I remember that.
And you'd read paragraph 34. It's like, oh, that was really interesting. But it was so like they could save, like 100K of text in the game, which would have like doubled the size of the game.
Yeah.
But it's a really weird throwback. But every time I think about, you got to watch the FMVs to really understand what the story is in this game, it reminds me of like, it's like Wasteland. I had to read the separate book. If you lost the booklet, like you had no idea what the hell was going on.
Yeah, it's just weird to have
It's weird how they separated it out.
And it's just weird to have like a game that's only single player and have it have issues playing it. I mean, that's insane. Look at the world that we've ended up at. Like, we're in a place where a single player game, you may not be able to experience the full story unless you have a good internet connection.
What a time to be alive.
It's insane, man. I can't believe it. Like, it just struck me like really hard. I mean, one, because it was just such a pivotal moment in the story, and I'm sitting there like waiting for it to stutter its way through it. But two, just realizing that all the advances of technology have brought us to this place where, like, honestly, like, a story for a video game could kind of be ruined by the technology. I was really disappointed in that. So, but when the stories do work, like, the FMV is great. I don't think it's going to usher in this new era of FMV games. And if you were going to say one game did that, it would probably be Her Story and not this game. But you know, I didn't feel like it was a detriment to the game. And I feel like in the past, before I played this game even, and even playing Her Story, like, I always felt like FMV was a bit of a cop-out. But in this game, I feel like it actually adds a lot to it instead of taking away from it or being a crutch. And a lot of that goes into investing the money into it with the great actors and the locations and the costuming and the sets and...
Budget is king.
Yeah, I mean, it goes a long way in this, for sure.
Do you feel that, like, can you feel the Remedy pedigree in it? Like, does it feel like, you know, would you have known it was made by the Max Payne or the people?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's bullet time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just bullet time times 2. Like, it's just the
bullet
next...
double time.
Yeah, it's just the next evolution of bullet time. There's plenty of moments where you've frozen time and you're walking past bullets that are just suspended in midair. I mean, there's some really cool stuff in this game. Like, really freaking cool. Because, like, you kill... First of all, it's really hard to tell, like, what exactly is going on with time at any given time in this game. Because there's these weird, like, stutters and ripples and rifts that just happen on the fly. It's like the whole world just is constantly moving and shaking and fracturing and, like... It's like glass breaks, and the little panes of glass are like different points in time. It's just insane. Like, all this stuff happening in real time on the fly, like, I'm totally cool with 720p. Like, honestly, if that's the resolution they had to build this game at to make the stuff happen that happens in this game in real time, I am totally cool with it. Like, things are a little blurry, and you really notice it when they show you pre-rendered cinemas that show you what the character models are supposed to look like. But while you're playing the game, like, you never are really like, oh, this is 720p. It feels so dirty. Like, the stuff that the game does that makes it be a 720p game is totally worth it. Like, sometimes you get in, I think they're called ripples. I can't remember all the terminology that they use for the different time anomalies. But there's certain enemies that are certain times where if you kill an enemy, they kind of go into one of these like slow-mo poses, but they'll stay like suspended in air, along with like all the sparks flying off their guns, all the particle effects from them getting shot, and then you can walk up to them and like push them. And it's like they're floating in like outer space. And it's really cool. Sometimes it gets in the way though. Like you're trying to shoot out of cover and like this body that's like hanging in the air is like hanging over like your sights. There's a couple places where it gets a little annoying, but it's just, I've never seen a game like it, ever. And look, I've seen a lot of video games, but this one is completely unique in its visual style. It's kind of like, and I mentioned this in the game eval, it's like the synchronizations in Assassin's Creed, where everything kind of blows apart and then comes back together, except it's just doing it all game on the fly in real time. The effects for all, you're seeing a lot of the effects for the powers here. They're all great and convincing. Like, just notice how, see how the ground is always like doing a wave? Like, it's always, like, the whole game, see again, it's just over and over. There's just waves going along the ground. Like, it's commendable. Like, this is one of those games, like, I think I gave it a 7 for graphics, but, you know, it was a little bit better on a technical level as far as resolution and things like that. Like, it would be a contender for best graphics of 2016. Like, it just simply does stuff like there. See how the sparks and everything? Like, yeah. I mean, visually, this game really impressed me. I don't care what resolution it's running at. It looks great. It does stuff no other game does. And the one thing I would say, too, is that, like, eventually you do start facing enemies who also manipulate time.
Like, I think we just saw that there.
Yeah, anytime the enemies have those, like, little backpack things on their back, that means that they can also manipulate time. One annoying thing that we just saw right there is they zap in and then they melee you, but you cannot melee in this game. The only way you can melee is if you're in that sprint that I was talking about earlier. Like, there'll be a prompt that'll pop up above the enemy's heads that you tap, and then you can do a melee then, but there's no melee button. So if those guys zoom in and start meleeing you, you just have to run away and, like, shoot them. You can't, like, melee them back. So there's lots of little quirks like that with the gameplay. And, I mean, in all honesty, it's just one of those games that kind of has a lot of little quirks. But it's a fun game to play. The core experience is good. I don't think anybody will ever regret playing it. Like, I think once people start playing it, they'll get hooked into it. It's low commitment. It's 10 hours to finish the whole thing. And I think once people start playing, they won't stop. But I think if people spent $60 on this game, it might be a different story. For certain types of players, people who are kind of like me or maybe gameplay first type players probably will be disappointed in it. But if you're into story-driven games, it's probably going to end up being one of the better stories from this year. Plenty of twists and turns, keeps you guessing the whole time. Solid ending without resorting to sort of cheap tactics with the plot. But yeah, so one of the things that happens, like, see all those guys were dead, but they still look like they're alive. Like, it's hard to tell sometimes if the enemies are dead.
Yeah, I couldn't tell just looking at that.
Yeah, because you'll shoot them, and they'll just get frozen in time. If you walk up to them, you can push them away, and they'll float away. But from a distance, you can't really tell that that's what happened. You think they're just still alive, just standing still. So, yeah, that's Quantum Break. I mean, people who really like stories in games, I think you're going to like it a lot. People who don't give a crap about stories in games aren't going to like it as much. I think most people will play it and enjoy it. I just have a really hard time recommending it at full price, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I got that impression off of. Well, mainly from your review and from other reviews. It doesn't quite strike me as a $60 game for me.
Do I think it's going to move Xbox Ones? No.
I don't. Did most people even know this is coming out?
I don't know if they did or not.
I haven't seen any commercials that I haven't watched.
Actually, I have not seen a commercial for this game at all. Yeah. Not one.
Which is weird considering the talent they have in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you should just put their faces in the commercial and be like, here's a new game with these people from The Wire. You love that show, as you should. But, yeah. So I enjoyed my time with it. I think most people will. I just don't think $60 is a good price to pay for it. So,
well, I have a feeling that it's not going to be $60 for too long.
Probably not. Yeah, you'll probably be able to get that PC version pretty cheap pretty soon, I'm guessing. Yeah. So hold out for a couple months, sifters. At least that's my recommendation. Get this for $40. I think that would be cool. Somebody paying for it, $40. There is some incentive to play it again because there's like after every chapter there's a major decision that you make, and it's a major decision. It's not just like do you want to wear a blue hat or a red hat. It's like it's like huge arc changing decisions. Like who do you ally with? Like the main bad guy or the guy that the main bad guy thinks is a bad guy. Like. And it changes, like, everything. It changes the FMVs that you see, like, in-game. Like, even while you're running around, like, they'll make different references on the fly related to, like, to the decisions that you made. There are real-time cinemas and pre-rendered cinemas that change based upon your decisions that you make. Who lives and who dies changes. I mean, it makes a big difference. So, like I said, I got through halfway through the second playthrough, and I was like, I'll just watch these on YouTube. Because the gameplay wasn't holding up for me at that point. But, yeah. And I think a lot of people probably will do that. They'll play it once, and then they'll probably watch the alternate videos on YouTube. Although I would guess Microsoft will do its damnedest to keep those off of YouTube. Because it does kind of just ruin the whole thing. I'm sure somebody has already captured all the FMV and just posted it all as one, like, movie on YouTube.
I'm sure. Now.
I'm sure that's probably done, like, an hour after it came out. So... yeah, so that's what I would say. Quantum Break, not for everybody. Well, actually, I would say it is for everybody. I think everyone will enjoy it.
At the right price.
At the right price, yeah. That's what I would say. All right, let's move on to the last topic of the Big Six for this episode. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy 15. Realize we're a little bit late to the game on this because literally everything happened while we were filming last week's episode. But this stuff is just too big to not talk about. Plus, no one had really played the demo at this point last week. The demo's obviously been out there for a while, but let's start with the smaller stuff and build up to the demo. Let's talk about the promotion around this game. So, came out this week that Square Enix believes it needs to sell 10 million copies of this game to break even because it's been in development for 10 years.
Good luck with that.
I mean, if you really start thinking about all the employees that you've had hired on this project, fired on this project, all the scrapping, the reworking that's been done over 10 years, I could see where 10 million copies is probably needed.
Multiple engines, multiple just wow.
So, they need this game to be a massive success. In fact, a success bigger than anything Square Enix has had in, I don't even know, ever maybe? Ever? Have they ever had a game sell 10 million copies?
Not that I recall.
I mean, like Final Fantasy VII has probably sold 30, 40 million over...
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that's over a long span of time. I mean, you're probably looking at... they need something to be a hit now that is the equivalent of what Final Fantasy VII was at the time.
Right.
Like, you need a modern hit on the level of the 1997 hit that was 7.
Yep, and so in that vein, they have created an insane... promotional program. And the first thing that we're looking at right now is Brotherhood, which is, I believe, a 5-part anime series. I think there's 5 parts to it. The first episode's already live. 5 parts, I believe.
5 sounds right. I haven't memorized all that yet, but I think it was 5 parts.
So they've created this completely separate anime show just to promote Final Fantasy 15. As you can see by what we just showed you, basically centers around the boy band driving around in the car. It's called Brotherhood, so I'm sure it's all about building the bonds between this group of ragamuffins. I prefer to call them vagabonds. So you have that. And then you also have this other CG series called Kingsglaive, which is it a movie or a film?
I'm not clear on exactly what that is. I admit I didn't watch the whole presentation because I don't particularly care.
Well, they put out like all trailers for each of these separately or whatever.
But like, I mean, looks cool. Kind of looks like my car.
Looks like they're using that render farm they spent all that money on in Hawaii. Finally again.
Are they? Or did they? I thought they shut all that down.
It looks like the Spirit Within to me.
Well, that was a long time ago. Maybe they rescued the equipment and dragged it back to Japan.
I mean, it looks to be on the same level.
That looks better than Spirits Within to me.
Really?
Go back and watch the Spirits Within again. Like it doesn't look good.
It doesn't look as good as this?
Oh no. Oh, no.
Yeah, my memory is definitely...
The uncanny valley is not nearly as bad here. I mean, the people, at least the facial expressions and basic animation in Spirits Within is frankly, 16 years behind this. I mean, this definitely looks better.
Okay. So they have these two things. They also have a mobile game that they're working on. Actually, it's a part of Final Fantasy 15. You can go into an arcade and play the pinball machine. It's called Justice Monsters 5.
Of course it is. I like that. I like Justice. It sounds like what they'd call Law and Order, in another country. Justice Monsters, Special Victims Unit. 5. So because there's 5 of them, right?
Right,
That's why.
It's the 5.
It's not the 5th game. It's just there's 5 people on the Justice Monster team.
Right. So it's a pinball game for mobile. You can play it inside Final Fantasy 15, or you can download the app separately to play on your mobile phone, your mobile device, your iPad, whatever. So that's 3 huge projects to promote this game, all with conceivably the goal of hitting 10 million in sales at least. But here's my issue with it, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
All this promotion, to me anyway, resonates with the Japanese market. Save for maybe the CG stuff.
I don't know. I don't see how you sell those 4 guys to the standard Western audience.
Yeah,
I don't mind them because I've watched anime my whole life.
We're also calling them guys. I mean, there's a lot of people in America who wouldn't know that they were dudes.
Yeah.
The anime is a little more clear, but
one guy has facial hair. They're pretty clearly guys to me. They're just
Well, you're looking at anime right now,
right?
I think in the game it's hard to tell that they're guys, though. I don't know. They're pretty effeminate. Anyway,
maybe from the face, or if it's a close shot, but wide shot, they're all clearly guys to me. I think.
But so if you're creating, and look, obviously the anime.
I think the world is weird in this game. It
makes no sense.
Modern yet not, or
it looks like it takes place in the Dark Ages, but it has modern technology.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. The world isn't cohesive at all. It makes no sense whatsoever to me. But I think I'm okay with that. That's not my big sticking point. My issue with this is, all these promotional programs, to me, will appeal far more to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to sell 10 million copies of a game, to me, that's a huge mistake. Every promotional program they have for this game should be targeted towards the West, because that's how they're going to hit 10 million. I mean, there are...
Well, this reminds me of when they tried to make the Matrix sequels, the big multimedia project where you had to go see Final Flight of the Osiris opening another movie before the Matrix sequels came out, and then they had the Animatrix, and they had all this stuff online, and nobody cared.
You couldn't follow it. It got too confusing. This is also confusing. I mean, we're sitting here, we live and breathe this stuff every day, and we're so how many episodes does this have? When does this come out? Is it coming out of the theater, or is it just on YouTube?
This just like you say, it's just it's a marketing technique that isn't used here really, and I don't see why it's going to work this time either. It's
not even just a strategy though; it's the content. It's a lot of this stuff isn't going to appeal to Western audiences. And look, if you're trying to sell 10 million copies of a game, you have to go way outside the boundaries of the Final Fantasy fan or the Square Enix fan. You're not going to get 10 million in sales just from Square fans. It's just not going to happen. You're going to have to appeal a little bit to the mass consumer. I mean, how many games reach 10 million in sales in a year?
Hardly any.
One. Call of Duty. That's it.
There's guys with armor casting sword magic, but then there's a 50s diner where you can play pinball machine. I don't understand what I'm looking at here.
Driving around in his old convertible that flies.
Pretty slick Audi they got there earlier, and it's just I don't.
They're selling that car, by the way. There's only one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they won't say how much it's going to cost.
Too much.
But Audi built it, and it was at the whole press event, and they refuse to say how much it's going to cost. I think they're going to auction it, maybe.
I figure they'll auction it.
Yeah. But so to me, if the goal is hitting 10 million, they're going about it completely the wrong way. They need to market to the West.
Well, I think they should instead of spending all this money on these extraneous things, they should have just advertised more. Push the game. You need the game to sell. Push the game. Don't put all this other weird stuff out. Maybe that's a a standard marketing tactic in Japan, but it's not going to work globally.
10 million. If you sold,
I don't know. If they need 10, I think 10 million sounded to me like more like they were trying. That was kind of an ideal they were trying to hit.
No, they said to break even. They need 10 million.
Did they say that?
Yes, that was quoted in every article written about it. Every one. To break even, they need 10 million in sales.
Well, I don't think they're going to break even.
I don't either.
I don't see this game selling.
Not with this promotional strategy. I don't think they have a chance to hit 10 million.
I don't think they have a chance to hit 10 million no matter what they do.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think Final Fantasy has that kind of cachet anymore.
And I don't know if it ever did.
And having played the demo, I don't think the game's going to get word of mouth strong enough to get people to 10 million people to buy this game.
Nice segue, Kyle.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about the Platinum demo now. Right. So I have not played it. Mm-hmm. I've watched it. I've watched it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have not. I just haven't had time. I've been trying to get through Quantum Break. I'm still trying to get through Pelican Tournament and playing Star Fox. I didn't have time to play it. But I texted you and I was like, please make sure you play it. So
I took a break from my my career, my road to the show career.
You're playing a baseball game.
Yeah, I like baseball. I just don't care about professional sports. So I took a break from that and Hyper Light Drifter to delve into the Final Fantasy 15. It's weird.
It looks to me like Kingdom Hearts.
It doesn't feel like Kingdom Hearts too much. It's much stiffer.
Stiffer.
Kingdom Hearts kind of has a more fluid sort of platformy feel, and this one there's a little bit of mush to how it controls. Like I felt like he wasn't as responsive as Sora.
I think what it is that because Noctis is so young in this demo, and he kind of I don't know. It just
also this again. He's like he's unconscious in a forest, and a magic fennec fox runs up to him and gives him a cell phone or smartphone so he can text the kid through. Like, what the hell am I? I mean, I know it's a dream. This is a dream that you're in the whole time. I know it's a dream, but it's like I was like, what the hell is it? And there's like a lot of weird. Like sometimes it looks amazing, and sometimes there's like weird image quality problems where like. Even on the titles, like the front title, I know it's just a demo, but it's like the front title screen that first comes up, it's this giant close-up of that Fennec Fox thing, the carbuncle. Uh-huh. And like, some of it, like the ear looks really cool, with like you can see through it, it's got kind of like translucency and there's fur on it. And then like the muzzle, like, the texture on the muzzle is like blurry. Yeah. And I'm like, what happened? Like, how did that get through? I don't get. So there's a lot of like weird parts where it looks kind of muddy.
They need more time, Matt.
I guess 10 years wasn't enough.
10 years isn't enough.
But it's like you can jump around, you can dodge, and then like eventually you start fighting guys, and the fighting is interesting because I thought it was going to be like fun, like Kingdom Hearts.
That's what I thought it looked like.
But it's not, because like you can play it sort of like that. But the other thing is like if you want to do like more combos, you can just hold the attack button, and he just attacks. Over and over.
That's a little Final Fantasy
yeah,
RPG-ish,
and then the same thing with the dodge, but you hold that, and he will automatically dodge stuff that can be dodged. Some stuff can't be dodged, and some of that's obvious, and some of it isn't.
Yeah.
But that's basically how it works. Is like so you can. It felt like I could combo button if I wanted, but it felt like the game wanted me to hold the button down more. But like the problem with that was like I felt I was way less in control, and I felt like, especially the boss you fight, the Iron Giant. Like I felt like committing to that meant it was going to be much harder to switch to defense, and I had better results when I was tapping it back and forth. So it's like kind of this weird mix of, it's like they were trying to please both people who wanted to play an action game and people who wanted to play like a more traditional RPG, and I don't know if either one really works too well.
I mean, I'm guessing also this combat system is what makes it into Final Fantasy VII ultimately.
Yeah, it's probably very similar, I would think.
I mean, we've seen combat; it looks the same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping there's more to it, and I'm sure it'll open up more. But there's not a lot of meat on its bones so far, and like you can equip like 4 different weapons and switch between them, and magic, and switch between them as you like. I just didn't I didn't feel this gave me a very clear picture of what to expect, at least not in a positive sense. And of course, you can run around and explore. It's not like, again. I have this problem with a lot of JRPGs now where it's like the world is so pretty, but it's also so static and dead.
Yeah.
And like there's a section where you're in like this big like kind of
Star Ocean 5 is like that, man.
Yeah, I'm sure. But it's like this big, you can't go in the water except for like, to kind of run along this little pathway there.
Yeah.
And like you can't jump in, and like until the carbuncle says like, oh, jump in here. This is the exit. Jump in here. But until you get up there,
the exact spot
you can't
where you have to jump in.
Yeah. And or like in the next section here, you're in this like giant room, like a giant kind of Victorian, like very nicely appointed room, and like there's like stacks of books you can explore into.
What the hell just happened right there? You just jumped through a ring.
It's a dream. So he's jumped into the next part of the dream, which is this giant room, and so there's like weird things where like you run up to the like things in the giant room, and like at one point
so time travel. Dreams is the other cheap plot device where you can pretty much do whatever the crap you want.
So like the dream is the tutorial in this basically, and like I guess, and like so you wake up in the dog bowl. And but you can see like there's all these things around here, and there's like at one point you go up to like this area where there's like a cave made out of books, and like there's like stuff made out of blocks, and like if you touch the blocks you can knock the blocks over, and you can kick these little miniature beach balls around, but like you can't do anything to like the teacup. Like the teacup is just a solid object; it can't be interacted with at all. Or like there's like pressure pads in the last area, and like there's like
they showed one earlier.
And but these are like things you like they drop down and they don't seem to do anything. Like and now there's like barrels everywhere with exclamation points. Like maybe I can put those on if I kind of roll them over. You can't grab them or move them. You just knock into them and like kind of push them over like kind of informally. But then like you roll them on top of the pressure pad and they don't press it down. Like it's like interaction for no. And of course everything in the like there you just stepped on a pad and transformed into a truck.
What?
And what? Yeah. I mean, I know it's a dream and it's supposed to be, but it's like it's giving. I'm doing this. I'm like, are all the interactions and all the loot and all the various things like that? Are those all done through pressure pads like that? Like step on the thing and get an item, or is it, or is there? I just don't know what this thing's trying to communicate to me. I think it's a very weird demo to have put out.
Well, I read an opinion piece, I think from.
But like, look at the floor. Like the floor is gorgeous. Yeah. Like it looks like real wooden parquet floor. And then every once in a while, you're just like, sometimes the textures are good, sometimes they aren't. Like,
now, did you play the PlayStation 4 version?
Yes.
Because apparently the Xbox One version runs like butt.
I didn't think this ran too well either. Fine, playable. I didn't have a problem with it, but I was like, there's a couple times when I would rotate the camera, I'm just like, ooh, that's really
right on the edge.
Right on the edge of like 28 frames a second. Kind of, you can just see it starting to dip. It's a little much for it.
They spent a lot of time on this engine, man.
Yeah.
A lot of time.
And there's a lot, like, look, the fireworks effects look really cool, and, like, the animations, like, great.
There's no lighting, though.
Not really. Everything's kind of got this flat.
Nothing has a shadow. There's no shadows.
It's a dream, though. That's the thing is, I want to, like, just...
No shadows allowed in dreams.
No shadows in dreams. But like that's the thing is like part of me wants to kind of like be like, what the fuck is this? And like part of me is like, well, it's a demo and it's a dream, and so I don't feel it's like fair to judge the whole game by this little snippet that may not even have any relevance to reality.
There's no way the whole game is like this disjointed and like off the cuff.
But what I'm kind of getting at is I didn't find this particularly interesting to play.
This also reminds me of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, it's very. But again, I don't think it controls as well as Kingdom Hearts. I maybe it's been too long since I played Kingdom Hearts, and Kingdom Hearts doesn't control as well as I remember it. But it feels stiff, and I felt like I was not as immediately in control as I am in the Kingdom Hearts games.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something they were trying to go for, but I don't particularly like it.
I mean, look, Japanese RPGs have been falling behind for good 8 years now.
But I mean, really, not to. I don't want to like pass final judgment on this game off of a 10-minute demo or anything. But I come out of this demo thinking, 10 years?
Yeah.
10 years, and this is what you did.
Yeah.
Pretty, but
I mean, look, this was its big meaningless coming out party. Literally, it was its big coming out party. They had pushed to this event for months and months. They put a release date out to announce the release date, which leaked, coming out September 30th. And this is what is delivered. I don't know. I mean, you think they're going to put out another demo before it comes out? Probably not.
I don't know. I mean, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Like, give me a taste of what the combat's really like. I mean, at the end of this, you grow into adult or young adult Noctis and have a real fight with the boss. But like, this is. I mean, I would have to guess that this is probably the very first thing, like a tutorial. The very first thing. The carbuncle seems to be probably the first.
I don't think it is though. Actually, I don't think it is the start of the game. No.
Because it really feels like easing you into how to play this game.
Game Informer's cover story this month is Final Fantasy 15. Poor timing, man. I feel bad for those guys because they do this huge event and then their issue comes out. But one of the things that they put out today was them talking to the developers about the opening section of the game, and they weren't talking about the demo. So this maybe comes right after, or I don't know. Or maybe this is just a self-contained demo that doesn't have a whole lot to do with the main game. One can hope, right?
I mean, it's not the content that bothers me so much as that, like, it doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel good to play.
But it's just like you look at this game and you try to compare it to something like The Witcher 3. And the freedom that you have to, like, go wherever you want and do whatever you want and pick up quests on the fly. And, like, the combat feels good and immediate and visceral. And, again, I just feel like Japanese RPGs are...
And I kept doing the thing. It was like, I'd see a new enemy and I'd go to, I was using the hammer thing they give you early on. And, like, I hit the button to hit him and, like, he jumps and the hammer attack is like a jump smash attack.
Yeah, I saw it
and
earlier,
he continually jump smashed at the wrong plate. Like, in the time between hitting the button and the animation happening, the enemy had, like, gone over here. And so he missed them. Like over and over. It just didn't feel good.
And there's no excuse for this game not being polished, this demo not being polished. It's like, this is what you're trying to sell your game with. You've worked on this game for 10 years. Like, get your demo straight. Like, to have it run not great. That's a big concern, man. This game comes out in like 4 or 5 months. Like, they're not going to be able to do a ton of work on that engine to get it up to scratch. When you talk about all, I mean,
you start to see why they're, maybe why they're abandoning this engine to go Unreal Engine 4 for Final Fantasy 7's.
Because they've been busting their butt on it for 10 years and they're still getting shitty results.
Yeah.
That's exactly why. They know the frame rate better than anybody, man, and they know how long they've been working to try to optimize this thing to get it where they need it, and they still can't get it there. So. And I wonder, too, how much of this game is the fact that it's a hangover and it's been on several engines at this point and it's moved from one platform to another. And I mean, usually games that take this long to develop end up not being that good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, most games that have been in development hell, like, when they come out, they're just not very good. And
looking at you, Last Guardian.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a little nervous about that. I mean, I don't want to doom either one of these games, but...
I would like to like a Final Fantasy again.
I would love to. Love to. Like, I would love to rekindle that nostalgia I've had for this series since I was, like, a kid. Like, but...
And I like a lot of the design that's happening in, like, I like the enemies and I like the animation's amazing.
The art's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't... Maybe it's just like I don't trust them.
It's hard to trust them at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time that this studio made a great game? That's what I'm saying.
I like Birth by Sleep. It's about as far as I'll go.
Yeah, I mean, the first demo for this, I would argue, is better.
To me, I think the main thing for me was the pressure pad. Like, everything was a pad.
It really bothers you.
Well, because there's nothing in the world to touch. Like, there's
it is pretty stupid. Yeah,
it's just like, why is everything abstracted? Like,
why do you have to step on a pad to do anything?
And I feel like that's been a thing with Square's like RPG and action RPG stuff for far too long. Is that whole thing where it's like, oh, we're not going to incorporate it into the environment in any meaningful way. We're just going to have you step on a thing and a little light crystal will fly out and like that'll be your inventory item you just got. It's like, at least let me open a box or something, you know?
I'll say one thing. I hope this game is good. It's my last chance for my fantasy team.
Yeah, part of me wishes I hadn't played this demo.
It doesn't seem like it's really all that indicative of what the game's going to be.
Maybe not.
That creature is so weird, by the way. It really creeps me out.
Carbuncle. It's a fennec fox with a horn on its head.
Yeah, okay.
And a really good Wi-Fi signal, apparently.
Yeah.
I guess that's what the horn does.
It's like a roving cell phone tower.
He's your portable hotspot. With ears like that, he must get reception like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. Any last observations of Final Fantasy 15 you want to share before we move on?
I'm going to try to just forget I played this and come at it with new eyes when it finally comes out, because that demo did not make a good impression on me at all.
I'm going to play it. I mean, it's only 20 minutes long.
Don't do it. You're a young man. You have so much to live for. No, I'd be interested to see what you think, because I thought it felt clunky and just it didn't. It felt like it had a ways to go, and at this point, there shouldn't be a ways to go. There shouldn't be any
ways to go. Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. You know, I want a good Final Fantasy game. I hope that they can get it cleaned up, but I mean, based upon the stuff that you said, based upon what I've seen with my own eyes, based upon playing the first demo, based upon all the impressions I've read, based upon the analysis that Digital Foundry has done on the engine, it's not adding up to be something good right now.
Maybe not. I really like the rain effects.
Yeah. There are certain parts of the game that are really pretty. I mean, there's no denying it.
I mean, part of that, obviously, that's why I hope the pad things are just for the demo, because, it was like pads you step on and change the weather and change the time of day and stuff. So I hope it's just like we're just showing the engine off, and this is the most expedient way to do that. And there's a little, but I still remember Final Fantasy 13 and just how just empty that game was.
Yeah.
And again, good battle system. I really liked the battle system, but I could not have cared less about the characters, the world, the story, and the long, long corridor they made me run down for 40 hours.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if they've learned anything. The environments here are much more open and
are they though? It didn't.
They
really
are,
like
but there's more. You're not running down a total corridor like you used to. I mean, it was not disguised at all in Final Fantasy 13.
Right.
But the problem is, the environments are also dead. There's nothing to do in them.
It's just like I was saying earlier. Like going to something like this after playing a game like The Witcher 3, it's a hard sell, and especially in the West. I mean, that's what people like. For us, when someone says RPG, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Phantasy Star.
Or like a classic, like for me it would be Final Fantasy, like an old 2D SNES, Final Fantasy.
When someone says Final Fantasy, I think Final Fantasy 6.
Yeah, but you talk to most modern gamers and you say RPG, what do they think? They think games like The Witcher or Skyrim. Yeah, or Fallout or whatever. These open world, go wherever you want, and craft stuff. And
it's still amazing to me because I remember, I still am old enough to remember a time where everyone was like, oh, the West will never beat Japan at the RPGs.
They're just mopping the floor.
Japan will own RPGs forever. The West will never with these fake weird little D&D things. And Baldur's Gate was a nice try, but it's not it's not.
It really bothers me that there are no shadows on these characters at all.
I didn't notice that until you pointed it out. But it
really bothers me.
Yeah, there are no. There aren't even any shadows in the environment. The objects there, because you've got the light coming in the window.
So I said there's no lighting in this.
Because you've got light coming in the window and reflecting off the floor, but it's not casting a shadow through on the furniture. The furniture is not shadowed.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know, man. Japan's day may be done in the RPG market. I mean, if you want to sell 10 million, this game needs to be as good as The Witcher 3 to sell 10 million. That's the truth.
Or at least needs to pull you in like The Witcher 3 does, or like Fallout does, and it doesn't. This demo didn't. Maybe the actual game has a better.
I mean, are there going to be other systems in the game? Is there crafting in this game?
I don't know.
I doubt it. I don't know, man. We'll see. They still got some months to pull it together. Maybe this is all a ruse. Maybe this was really just a tech demo to show off the engine. If that's the case, they might want to put some lighting in it, but...
Yeah, well, it has the kind of that milky, Santa Monica in the morning quality to the light. But all the stuff from this game has that. Even the cutscenes look like that. They have this sort of flat, cloudy day look. And I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just the best they can do.
I don't know. They got some work to do, though, before this thing comes out on September 30th, though. We'll see. We'll be here to talk about it on GameFace when it happens. So it's time to move on to our trailer of the week. As always, start getting your questions into the chat right now so we can start looking through them while the trailer is running. We're going to stick with the Doom theme for the trailer of the week. They released a CG trailer this week for Doom that is several magnitudes better than the Doom movie that was released, I have to say. Nowhere near as long, mind you. It's only about a minute long. It is called the Doom Fight Like Hell CG trailer. Let's check it out.
Rated M for mature.
Why do we need this game to succeed?
All right, so we already got some questions rolling in. Have you watched that, by the way, that CG trailer?
For what? For Doom?
Doom.
No.
You should watch it, man. I know you had to look for questions while it was, but you should watch it whenever you get home and check it out. It's really good stuff as far as CG trailers go. Here's one question I see right out of the gate from Darturus. Question, if new users can start a free 3-day trial at Sifted, what's stopping them from simply continually making new trial accounts continuously to see premium content? I don't like knowing it's possible for someone to manipulate this method and get all the content I pay $30 a year for free. Simply typing nonsense info immediately grants trial access to premium content. Would love your input. That's not the case at all. So I don't want to get into too much of it because I don't want to kind of tell people how to game a system. But I can tell you without a doubt that that doesn't happen. We have a way to make sure it doesn't happen. So that's all I'm going to say.
I think that was one of the first questions I asked you.
Yeah. It's the first question anybody asks when you start a subscription service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the first things we started working on when we worked on security. So don't worry about it. We don't have people who are like signing up for a new trial account every 3 days. And look, as a business, we couldn't do that anyway because it would kill us with bandwidth. So Don't sweat it. That's not happening.
Solo Dolo 241, do you think we'll see more of a trend of games being announced this E3 for 2016 release date like Fallout 4 was?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
You think Bethesda will do that?
Possible. I think if there's one publisher that would do it, obviously it would be them.
It worked once.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, could we see the next Skyrim or whatever and have it come out in November? It's possible.
I'd like that.
I think everybody would like that.
I feel like it's probably not.
I mean, I would give that a 35 to 40% chance of happening, but I probably would have given Fallout 4 that same percentage last year. So I don't see other publishers doing it, in all honesty. They're just too big of bets. I think there are some franchises that you just know that no matter how much time people have to prepare for the fact that they're coming out, they're going to buy them, and Fallout's one of them. I mean, there aren't that many. Skyrim's one of them. Like Elder Scrolls, anything is one of them. Like, once you've built up a cachet of quality and people come to expect that quality from that series or from that publisher or from that developer, then people are much more apt to be like, I don't need to know that much about this game. I'm going to buy it no matter what. So, yeah, I think it could happen with a Bethesda game. I think it's highly unlikely that somebody else would do it. I think the classic example of this is Diddy Kong Racing. They announced it, and a week later it was out for the N64 during Christmas, and it ended up selling really well. I think it sold like 3 or 4 million copies. So it has worked in the past, but most publishers, they just have these elaborate... I mean, look at what we're seeing with Final Fantasy 15. Like, first of all, it's taken 10 years. Second of all, they're finally like, okay, we're coming down the home stretch. Here's a release date. And now we have like 3 like movie series that were in a mobile game. Like, most publishers are going to stray closer to what Square Enix did than what Bethesda did. So it was brave and it paid off for Bethesda, but I don't see a lot of publishers following suit. So
W. Matthew asks, can we get a fantasy update? Who's winning and who's losing?
I would say right now you're probably kicking my butt.
I would think, well, because my games are coming out.
Yeah. I've had a couple come out. They did okay.
Well, a couple you picked are not coming out this year.
Well, one for sure isn't. Mass Effect is not coming out this year for sure. Is there another one?
I thought there was another one, but I don't remember which one now.
I know Mass Effect for sure. It was my second overall pick. So I lost my second overall pick, like, literally the day after we drafted.
And Day of the Tentacle did okay.
Yeah. It's hovering around mid to high 8, I think,
80s,
something like that. That's good. You drafted that late, so that was a good value pick for you there. But, yeah, we should probably actually take 10 minutes and, like, add it up next week's episode, give you an update. I don't, to be honest with you, like, I've thought about it. I just don't want to do it because I know when it happens, I'm going to realize that it's like already over. And I think part of it too is that like I don't want people to not be engaged with it either because I feel like when everybody sees where it's at, everyone's going to be like Matt won, and no one's going to care anymore.
Well, now if you don't do it,
now
everyone's going to know.
We'll do it for next week. I'll come in with an update and probably a very sobering one for me, sadly, but we'll do it. I'll have to bite the bullet and.
Fair amount of year left.
You only got so many games, though.
Yeah,
it's not like about like a real sports season where you're like, well, you got 20 games left. Like,
yeah, but if I picked a couple of bombs and you picked a couple of good ones, it could even back out. I haven't blown the field away with anything. I've just gotten 7s and 8s. So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But that's what I mean. Like, I knew coming in this season that all that really mattered was making sure you had 10 games that came out, and then. Yeah.
I never thought Mass Effect was coming this year.
I did. Up until like the next day when they're like, oh no, here's our financial report, and it's not. Oh well. That's fantasy sports. Sometimes you get burnt.
Transpersenage. I don't know how to pronounce that. Transpersenage. I don't know. Sorry. Do you think Phil Spencer has been reversing the course of the Xbox One, or do you think he sent the brand into full speed off a cliff?
Well, we heard all those rumors about the Xbox One, like, expanding. We heard that first, before we ever heard of the PS4.5 or the PS4K, whatever you want to call it. And then we hear about the Sony stuff, and now Phil Spencer is like, oh no, I don't have any intention of doing that with the Xbox, which, if Sony does increase the power of its console, could end up being a huge mistake for Microsoft because it's already just barely treading water with the PlayStation 4. I mean, they beefed that thing up, and it could be bad. I think Microsoft's just kind of in a bad place anyway, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I don't know if they know what they want right now.
I mean, they want convergence. They want just everyone to use their OS, basically.
They want me to use Windows 10, that's for sure.
Everything, yeah.
Nope.
And DirectX 12.
Not yet.
Yeah.
I don't like your UWP thing.
Yeah, I honestly don't like where Microsoft is headed, to be honest with you. Like, now they played Quantum Break, which was supposed to be one of their marquee games, and it's good, but not amazing.
Now they're just Tim Sweeney.
What?
Didn't Sweeney say something about, like, we have to stock them or something like that?
Yeah. And then, Gears is being built by a new studio, and we saw how that worked with the first Halo by a new studio. And we just keep seeing this cycle again of Forza Horizon, Gears, and then they cancel Fable Legends, which probably was one of the few games that actually looked like something different and unique. And
now after like Quantum Break, you got to wonder what the PC version of Scalebound is going to be like.
Yeah. I don't know. Things aren't looking so good in Microsoft land right now. Maybe Nintendo has a window with the NX if Microsoft truly falters there. So
I think a lot of people this generation don't have a second console.
No, I would agree with that.
So Nintendo probably has
just idiots like us.
Yeah, well, if Nintendo probably has an opening there if they can get in there and make a case for it.
Yep. Let's see.
Eric Estrada 12, what are your thoughts on the new God of War 4 leaked images and the Nordic setting?
I don't know that they're legit.
Somebody said they were legit.
I mean, I believe they were made by an artist who worked at Sony Santa Monica. But, he could have worked there 2 years ago, and it could be like they could have went to their artists and said, hey, everybody pitch us on a concept for God of War 4, and maybe his wasn't selected and somebody else's was. So I'm not buying into the fact that that is, in fact, what the next God of War is going to look like. If it were true, so just hypothetically, I'm cool with it. I mean, I feel like they've kind of done Greek mythology at this point. Like, what's left?
Yeah.
Who's left for Kratos to kill?
The Norse pantheon and the Egyptian pantheon would be the two. I mean, I mean, everyone says Norse. I would like to see them do Egyptian. Because
I would prefer that too.
The Egyptian stuff is crazy.
It is crazy.
I mean, and it's also really extra violent in a way that, like, and he can do some weird stuff with the animal-headed gods and. giant crocodile monsters that have the world on their back, and there's some cool stuff you could do with the Egyptian pantheon, especially because like it's less familiar, I think, than the Norse pantheon, thanks to everybody knowing Thor from Marvel now.
Yeah, it helps. So, yeah, I mean, I would not bank on that being the case, and hopefully Matt's right.
Yeah.
It's Egyptian and it's not Norse, but we'll see.
Alex R1239 asks me, well, they see me on the forums, and what is my username? My username on Sifted is Matt.
Yeah, and he posts in the comments for the show
sometimes. Like I don't dig into it too much because I'm a very argumentative forum person, and I don't want to piss all of you off. Basically, that's my.
He does come onto the GameFace comments sometimes, though. You can tell he's got the blue staff designation and everything. So if you just want to scan through the comments to find him, you can do it that way. Let's see.
Tenendigo asks, can Persona 5 save your team, Shane?
I hope so. I'm starting to wonder if that game's coming out too, though.
Me too. I mean, I would really like to play that game before the end of the year.
If we don't see it at E3...
It's been a long time since Persona 4.
Yeah. If we don't see it at E3, maybe another 0 for me.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Let's play that Fire Emblem crossover game. And that game sure turned out what I thought it was going to be when they announced it.
Yep. Let's see. Let's just answer one more.
What's the big red button for? Yeah, the shiny, jolly, candy-like button.
Now you know. Here's one from, I think you tried to pronounce this earlier, Transpercentage.
Transpercentage.
With disappointing sales figures of Sunset Overdrive, Tomb Raider, Titanfall, Halo 5, and pretty much all Xbox exclusives, do you think Microsoft might pull development cash of first-party games? No. And I only say that because Phil Spencer has basically said that. He's been asked the question before, and he's like, no, it's the backbone of what we do and the lifeblood of what we do. So, yeah, I don't see that happening at all. Any plans for a third host? That's from Retro Pietro. Probably not. Kind of like this. Maybe bring in a guest or two during E3 or something like that.
But sit right at the point of the table.
And just jab themselves in the gut the whole episode. No, I mean, the format of this show from the beginning was designed to be two people. I watch a show on ESPN called Pardon the Interruption with just two guys, and I like the banter between the two of them. It helps you build a rapport with the other person and kind of work off and feed off of the other person a lot better. You don't talk over each other. I think the number one complaint I always got over Invisible Walls was everybody talks over everybody, and Shane, you tell them to stop, and you, cut people off. Well, you don't get that here. It's just Matt and I. And so I don't have to worry about cutting him off or awkwardly wrapping up discussions or, it's always weird when you have people that ramble because you don't want to be the jerk, but you can see that they're talking in a circle and you can see they're saying the same stuff over and over again, but they're really nervous and they're excited and they don't see it. So they just keep rambling on. And then as the host, you're the guy to be like, okay, moving on. And then everybody hates you. They're like, why'd you cut him off? It's like...
Nobody likes the moderator.
Yeah, I like this two-person format, to be perfectly honest with you. I prefer it over the 4 and 5 people that we had on Invisible Walls. It just got too much to wrangle, and it makes the show a lot more streamlined, and we can always bring in people, like we used to do our deep dives and bring in people.
It'd be fun to bring in Pactor, I think.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the show, we'll probably be talking to Pactor to do some stuff for E3, so yeah. But otherwise, GameFace is probably just going to stay Matt and I.
And, Daniel Kaiser, I enjoy Daniel Kaiser. It's just he's not really in town too much.
Okay, they're asking, can we please get introduced to TriCaster, dude?
Yeah.
All right. Sam, you want to roll over? So this is Sam. How do you pronounce your last name, Sam? Ruoko? Ruoko. This is Sam, our TriCaster operator. How many episodes have you done now?
10?
10?
Yeah, 10 or
15, yeah.
Somewhere in there.
He's good. He's our best TriCaster operator we've ever had by a wide margin. I'm not just saying that because he's here. He does a really good job. He hit the ground running with our TriCaster.
Hey, that was me a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so now you met him. You asked, you got it. There's actually a real human being sitting next to us, running stuff. It's not just a big scam. Everyone's like, Sam hype. Everyone's saying hello. And Sam, what's your username on the site again?
Wiffle baller.
Wiffle baller. Yeah. So people always like ask me. They're like, and they're actually like, I've seen people like try to send messages to you by @TriCaster Guy, like thinking that was like your login name on the site. It's not. You wrote a blog about Mario Kart.
I did.
Like he's on the site, so find him, hunt him down. Maybe you should post in this week's episode of GameFace so people can be like, there he is, and then they can figure out who you are and all that.
Sounds good.
So there you go. That's Sam.
Somebody asked if this is a Crow shirt. Johnny Hurricane, yes, it is a Crow shirt. This shirt is 22 years old. I got this when the first movie came out in 1994. And on the back it says, pain, fear, irony, despair, death.
Yeah.
Which is great to wear at the grocery store.
Everyone's saying TriCaster Guy is still available to new users. If you want to change your on-site persona. So, all right, that's it for this week's episode. But before we go, we have one thing we want to do. So last week, when I announced Sifted Elite, I said that anybody who signed up and donated $50 or more would become a part of Sifted Elite. And one of the bonuses would be that I would mention them by name on an episode of GameFace. And people, there's the list. These are the people that donated $50 or more to Sifted since last week, like in 6 days. So I just want to say, holy cow. You guys are freaking awesome. I never dreamed the list would be this big. When I said that we would name like every person, I assumed there would be 10.
You weren't expecting 75 people?
No, I didn't expect that. But you know what? I am going to hold true to my word. I'm going to say every single user's name on this list. And I know I'm going to mispronounce some. Don't hate me. It's also kind of far away, and my eyes aren't what they used to be. So if I mispronounce some of these, please forgive me. But here we go. A big thank you to every single one of these people, including Not Cirque, Venuraba, Karik, GIC, Elox, Itimbo, Blairy, Sloth2545, Suited Armor, Blade, Brad Burnian, Francis Alex, Odin5, Dyson XP, Casuality, David, Thriller Number 1, Ben, Stealthy, Jay, M. Shane Clark, Lord Flash 0079, Hasib 11M, Curious Conjurer, Aim Monster IGC, 2 Has 1, Joachim Dragoon, Best Jeppy, Jorg Renard, V Dizzle, GIC, Erebus Jones, Alex R1239, Andy 3000, Cooper B21, Jan Ivar, Toshman 666, Steen, AW08, Jor, Kevin, Royden, Alex, Bookhouse Boy, The Stand User, Vin Hill, Unfashionable, Zet Saber, Dimp Digital, VMix, Justin, Rigor Mortis, Mr. Sweet, Gojira, Barefoot Rat, Strikey, NZ, FSB, Alston, KDE Bolt, Charted 112, Chris, OMG, Mr. T, Retro Gunblade, Tapin, Wampler 13, Dan Parsons, Flayra, Tomb Raiders, Tyler 56721, Daniel, Wally, Jay Thiessen, Nick Shelburne, and Lil Fish.
Woo!
Yoo-hoo!
Hit the button.
You guys are awesome.
That was some real Unreal Tournament announcer stuff going on there after a while.
Thank you, party people. Thank you, Sifters. You guys are flipping awesome. Just before we go, working on merch, working on some shirts. One of the concepts I have going is that working on a couple different t-shirt designs. There will be at least one design that only elite people will be able to buy. You guys cannot put input onto the shirts. You're going to have to take what we offer. Look, we're not going to make the elite shirts like the coolest shirts. We're going to make sure that all the shirts are really cool. But there will be stuff like that going forward on Sifted for just our elite members. So it'll be more than this. But next week, anybody who...
All the shirts are going to be green.
Yeah.
Bright, bright green.
And I do feel kind of bad because the people who like jumped right in and did elite right away, they were all kind of clumped together in that huge group of people. Now the people who go elite over the next like however amount of time, they get a much bigger spotlight. So It's just the kind of the way it worked out. I didn't want to kind of feather all these names out. I wanted to thank everybody right away for their generosity. And once again, thank you so much for donating to the site. I really, really appreciate it. So, any last famous words, Matt, before we get on out of here?
Nah.
All right. That's it. GameFace episode 44 is up and out.